Thank you, Drew. January 22nd, 2018, I'd like to call to order the Water and Sewer Commission meeting at 6:30. And first of all, I'd like to welcome Ms. Guerin to our team here. She's replacing Norma, who moved to California. But, and again, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, let's, public forum. If there's anyone here, step forward for public forum. Seeing nobody, let's move on to agenda warrants and abatements approvals as needed. Number one is minutes and water and sewer meeting, excuse me, of water and sewer meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following warrants. First of all, we have Beta Group for $3,478.90. WB Mason, $19.78. Rico USA, $141.30. Commissioner salary, $500 even. Copeland and Page Law Firm, $551. Veolia for emergency services, $240. And the big one here, Veolia for the month of August, November, and December, $109,237.50. Veolia again for lab testing, $736. Veolia for annual tune-up, $8,980.55. And Veolia for police detail, August and September 2017, for I&I work they were doing, $2,213.28. And Veolia for collection system, manhole buddy, $1,190.63. Once again, we have Veolia for emergency work on Old Worcester Road, $813.60. And Veolia for emergency work, the MTA at 6W, $1,015.39. And Veolia EQ tank, pumps 2 and 3A, $6,441.70. And one more from Veolia, the EQ tank 2 and 3, $1,360. Next, we have Charlton Oil for the plant generator, $1,196.63. EDS Mechanical, $3,072.23. Bigelow Electric for the Pine Street Pump Station, $495. And Peter Stockus for $300.
Paul, you missed one for Veolia, the high core screening, I believe. $1,354.80.
I thought I remember saying that. Whatever, then. Veolia emergency work on Old Worcester Road. Yeah, I don't remember saying Old Worcester Road. $1,354.80. Totaling of all of these is $143,338.29.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, is any discussion? Okay. I guess, Pete, is there a reason why we skipped so many months with Veolia? Because we usually pay them monthly.
Correct. I'm
Somewhere around.
unaware of why August was skipped. November and December were held off because we're going to do that CPI fix, because they were supposed to get their annual increase for November 1st.
Okay,
But as we're going to discuss with them later, the contract language wasn't accurate in what we should do, and we have to fix that. So we were holding those off to try and get approval of the board to change that language so we could do the increase. But it's just
Okay.
it's been too long. So what
I
we're going to
agree.
do is, November and December are at last year's rate, and we're going to have to do a catch-up with Veolia based on what you guys vote
Sure.
for the increase
sure,
for the second year.
okay.
Again, August, I don't know why. We kind of stumbled across it when we were looking at a couple different things and found that August wasn't paid. We couldn't find, we looked through our records and looked through all the warrants that were done previously to me being here and since I was here, and there was no invoice for August processed, so.
Okay. Yeah, all right. You agree with that, Frank?
John?
You agree with that? John, excuse me. Yeah, that was the last guy, right?
That's okay. That's it.
All right, yeah. Yeah, we don't want to go backwards. Okay, all right, so we've got a motion on the floor. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I'd now like to make a motion to approve the minutes. I think it was our last meeting, December 18th, 2017.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to take a look at those minutes? Peter, are they pretty much in order?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so why don't we do this, because it's kind of a new process. The document that we need to sign for the warrants is right here, Peter, is that
Top, yeah.
correct? Okay, so,
There's a line right on top with all your, you can
yeah,
just
of
sign right
course
above
it's,
your
of
name.
course it's in font 8.
Well, the invoices this month.
Yeah. Following,
You can go back to the old way where you sign like 30 if you want.
no, I don't want to sign 30, I'm just, the following name
Change,
bills
sorry.
of the water and sewer, okay, and, okay, so we should sign right above our name?
Yes.
Okay,
Now, is that just for the warrants or the minutes too?
The minutes are separate.
Okay.
There are minutes printed, you'll have to sign those.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. Paul, you're right next door.
Oh, I didn't know, we all, I see.
Yeah.
I thought there was one signature only.
I think if the commission wants to vote for one person to have the authority to sign that, then we can do that, but previously it was whoever was here and the majority of the board had to sign them, so that's kind of what I went with.
There you go.
Was there a motion to approve the minutes?
Okay, good question.
Made a motion, was it seconded?
I didn't say.
Right, I didn't second
I'm not
either,
gonna vote on it.
right. I was, I know I had asked if there was your opinion on the minutes, if they were accurate, Peter.
Again, it's,
Okay. So we have a motion to accept the minutes?
You want to
Minutes?
hear that?
he's,
I wasn't here.
Okay. Paul, get a motion to accept that,
Yeah,
the minutes? Okay, I'll second that.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, I made
And
the
because you and I,
motion originally, so.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and Alex,
I'm abstaining.
you're abstaining because of,
Was not present.
you weren't here. Okay. All right. So, those are the things that you need right now, Peter. Let me put them into here. Is there anything in here, Peter, that we need to be concerned with? This far?
we have a few minutes before your 6:45 appointment is here. I don't know if you want to just, the next thing you saw in there was my vacation request. Hopefully that won't take a long
You just
time.
got here.
I know. It's for March.
It's for March
It's for March.
2019?
No, not
No,
that far.
no, okay.
Not that far.
Okay, let's just take a look at it here. So there's a request in, and it's, start date is March 12th, ending date March 16th, Mr. Peter Boria. And we're looking for an approval of that, and it's vacation, so it's for 1 week.
I'll make a motion to approve Peter's vacation from March 12th to March 16th.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? No? Okay, and this is, you're entitled to this, Peter, just as far
Yes.
as the rules, okay.
Yep.
All right, good enough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, done. And it says the department head use only, so this needs one signature or multiple?
I believe just one is fine for that, if the board voted for it.
Oh, anyone have a problem with me signing this? Okay. Oh, denied, okay, so. The 22nd or 23rd?
22nd.
22nd.
Okay. So we're all set in this folder,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, let's make sure everything's in there. Tend to lose things. Okay. This is Gabe's. Okay, moving along. So there were no abatements, correct?
No, we need to wait to get the the meter reads from Southbridge before we can finish up the billing and then do the abatements all at once for flat and metered use.
Okay, I see that we have a 645 here for sewer abatement. I do not see the individual.
Yes, that's for us, yeah, that's not, one of your normal abatements, that's a special request, so that's why I put it on as a special item.
Okay, and
Not sure where he is.
we could put that off and see if
Sure.
the person shows up, then we'll bring it up there.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so we can move, if the gentlemen from EJP are here, the meter reading equipment. Good, thanks, fellas.
How you doing tonight?
Great. Good evening. Again, the routine, just grab the microphone, introduce yourselves, and
My
let
name's
us know what's
Rocco.
going on.
Sorry. Good? Hi. My name's Rocco Mitchell. I'm the outside marketing rep for EJ Prescott, Springfield, Mass.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
My name is Rocco Michelada. I'm the outside marketing rep for EJ Prescott out of Springfield, Mass.
Thank you, Rocco.
My name's Mike Burden. I'm the AMI specialist for EJ Prescott. That covers Massachusetts and Connecticut.
Okay. Good to see you again, fellas. You were here a while ago.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Last week.
They were here 2 weeks ago, but previously they were here in November to talk about the meter reading equipment we have.
Yep.
And what they did is Mike came out when we read meters on January 3rd and brought the new equipment so we could test it out and actually use it. So Mike loaded all of our meters into it, and Mike and myself actually went out and read the meters because Veolia had a service call and they had to go and work on the grinder pump. So Mike and I drove around. The equipment seemed to work great. It took us just under 2 hours to read 300,
Yeah, just under 300 meters.
just under 300 meters, and we had five bad reads that it told us it had a bad tone and that there were some issues with the MXU. So since then, Peter Starkus has been out, replaced 4 of those MXUs, and one of the bad reads was for 25 Hollywood, which is the known issue with a house that's under construction and has not been hooked up yet, so.
Okay, so you'd get a bad read because
Yes.
it hasn't been hooked up.
Yeah.
So once those, the MEUs,
MXUs.
MXUs were replaced, then you had 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a rarity.
Well, it seemed to work very well.
Yes.
All the reads imported into the Vadar system, and we, like I said, once we get Southbridge's meter reads, we can enter those, and we'll be good to go.
And at what are the costs, Peter?
The
This
cost
is-
for the equipment, yeah, it's on it's on the next page. The equipment price is $6,100, and then there's a 1-year software support requirement at $2,486.18.
No, we can't find that software on the internet somewhere?
No, and it's
Yeah.
required to upgrade your software on your computer to get
All
to
right,
work with this.
how about the trade-in of our slightly used unit that we have?
That's
Now-
what
now-
gets you to that 6,000. It's normally 12,000 list.
Really?
Yeah.
And again, the last few years, we've actually been using a borrowed handheld from EJP to do reads, so.
And that's how little use the other one had.
Yeah, well,
Now, talk to me about how this new one is not gonna do what our old one did, which was kind of go kaput and we couldn't get it fixed and,
My understanding of the old one, it was purchase rate as a transition was happening in the Census handhelds as some upgrades. After that, Census will support parts for about 5 years, usually when they do end of life on a product. With that particular battery, which it was the issue, is we couldn't get the battery or have it rebuilt anymore. Census just stopped purchasing that battery. It's actually a Juniper handheld. So Juniper also had put end of life with that handheld as well and no longer supported the parts. Going forward, the new handhelds use camcorder batteries. They don't have the proprietary battery that's in the handheld. So we can buy that version of the
so it's like a
battery.
Duracell or something like that.
Right, it's basically a camcorder Super View battery that we can buy online for $50 for replacements now.
Okay, that's good news. All right. And now, Peter, you said to me, next page, is there something here that,
yeah, if you go,
just follow the order, Lemansky? I got it.
flip that over.
Yeah, okay.
So the next page has the price breakdown, and then there's a third page that has the specs for the handheld.
Okay.
So,
I got one question before you, oh, I'm sorry, Peter, go ahead, you finish.
Okay, I was just gonna start talking about the things that I'm considering and trying to make sure that if we purchase this, we know what's in store or ahead of us if we decide to go consecutive water supply with having to read the Southbridge meters. Southbridge uses an Elster meter with an Itron MXU, so it doesn't really work with this handheld. So we're gonna have to probably, if you
Still a
just.
meter upgrade.
No, we could just do an MXU upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, in talking to Mike, yes, we can,
Does that run off 2 wires or 3?
We can run off both systems. With the Census touchpad, we can do it off 2 wires, or you can guide the MXU, that is a 3-wire screw-in terminal.
No, off the different
The
meters.
Elster?
Yeah.
The Elster meter will have 3 wires hooked into the Itron radio.
What are they running now, 2 or 3?
They have 3 in the photos that Peter sent me.
Okay, and there are 3 active wires?
Yep.
yeah, because they're radio read as well, so hopefully they're.
Right.
So again, my concern was I don't want to,
We use MXUs, but we use a variety of different meters,
okay,
and that's why
If
I
we have-
asked when we
If there's
did
3
an
wires
upgrade.
coming out, yeah, and they're all installed inside, as I understand, so you would have access to the
the
meter. while
the
you're
Itron
changing the
MXUs
radio.
are all hanging from the rafters, they don't put them outside on the building. But my concern is I don't want to have you guys invest in this, and then when we go,
Yeah,
if we
exactly.
decide to go consecutive, we have to just put this aside and have to do something completely different. And also know that if we go this route, we can put Census MXUs onto the Southbridge meters. There's approximately 200 users there. It's going to be a cost of $35,000 to $40,000 to do so.
For the new MXUs?
Yes, the MXUs are anywhere from 125 to 150 apiece, and you're looking at 200 units, so
That's 30 grand.
there might be more depending how much labor is.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So we have to coordinate getting inside 200 homes in 1 quarter to get those new MXUs hooked up so we can get the correct meter read. So it's definitely doable. I just want to, again, make sure that you guys know if we decide to do this and then go consecutive, there's still going to be an additional cost, part of going consecutive.
But either way, if we go consecutive, you just gotta be uniform across the board, so it's gotta be a
Correct.
cost no matter what.
Yes,
And if you make the investment now and you know the system now,
yes. So this.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be a better product in the end run.
So the previous system, the handheld, you used to have to drive around and it would show you the next address. You'd push the button to ping that next address before you could move forward. The new one just pings, just sends a big ping, wakes up any MXU in the area and then picks it up as you drive by. So we were driving down Glen Echo Shore Road and we were reading meters on Sunset Drive across the lake. So we could have just drove down the middle of the lake and picked up everything.
There you go.
The ice, but we didn't try that.
speedboat.
Do it,
And
yes, we
and
use
this
the
gun
bill.
has the ability to put everything to sleep and wake it up?
Yes,
All right.
yeah, this does the activation, deactivation of the MXUs.
And if there's an issue, it can go back out and,
Yeah, do all reconfiguration or any
Okay,
troubleshooting.
so if-
Similar to like the Trimble units that you have at Framingham that would do the activations.
Yep.
Yep.
the
Does
box.
that same
the-
software.
I don't have much to do with meters.
Okay.
But I did go through some of the training you guys did for us. You're talking about the boxes, the meter techs go
Yep.
out.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
yellow,
Yeah.
small one with blue
Okay.
bar, yep. Does the same as well as reading.
To give you background on why, we've gone through, I wanna say, 6,000 meter change out in the last 2 years. We've had a contractor do it, and it's gone very well. And we're using, their MXUs and different meters. We got away from census meters. On the smaller meters, we still use you guys are Omnis.
You still use the
Yeah.
Omnis, yep.
We still use the big Omnis because they are dead accurate. It
And
works.
And Alex, again, your experience is valuable here. And I heard you say is that you need the consistency across the board.
One way or another.
Yeah,
Whether-
yeah, again, whether we go A or B. But because, assuming that, or just for sense of discussion, or point of discussion, that the Charlton is A and Southbridge is B, how much is the reading gun for Southbridge's?
I wouldn't know, you'd have to talk to an Itron distributor.
It's probably gonna be about the same,
I
so.
would ass- I would
10 or
assume-
12 grand?
I would
It's not
assume.
gonna be 30.
No, I would assume it'd probably
Right,
be,
but- And again, I know this sounds crazy, but you'd be running two sets of bills.
Right.
Yeah,
So you eventually, if you're gonna go consecutive, you're gonna need to reel that in to a single point of single type of meters, or narrow that bracket of
yeah,
meters down.
yeah.
And at least be able to have the same reading devices for billing purposes. Does that make sense?
Well, it does in a way, and the other way is that if, of course, again, if we bought it, the reader that Southbridge uses would also need their software,
Right.
which
This
it
gives you-
keeps on, goes on and on and
Right,
on
so
and
at least
on.
if you have one, I know it seems like a big chunk to bite off, but eventually, the payoff's there.
There's cost savings in the beginning, but I think the process moving forward will be a lot more cumbersome to save that $5,000 or $10,000.
Right.
And then have to read meters with one handheld, go back out and read different meters with the other handheld, make sure we import the data correctly.
Right, yeah,
And-
yeah.
and don't miss
Again,
something.
I just don't want to let go of it until
I
I feel
understand.
confident. In the, I think as we sit here today, we have a problem with with the equipment that we have, which needs to be corrected.
The equipment we own has been sitting on the
Yes.
windowsill
Yeah, for
for years,
years, yeah,
and we've been using a borrowed one for the past 2
Right,
years,
right.
so.
that's out of goodwill.
It was
Yeah, because
nice of them.
you guys are waiting for the close. Yeah, so, I guess, Alex, if we're gonna go forward with the consecutive water supply, we need to keep this cost as part of our decision-making process,
Yeah.
which is, again, you put it, probably total, it'd be about 45 grand.
Hopefully that's high, yeah. So if you're looking at 200, 200 MXUs at $100 a piece, if we get a discount
Yeah.
for quantity, there's 20,000.
Right,
And then your labor to install.
yeah,
Whether we
Yeah.
have to hire 2 or 3 guys to get them done, because you're gonna have to coordinate with homeowners to get in their
Yeah, but
basement.
it's easy enough to get a contractor to do it.
Okay.
And then we just went through this.
Yeah.
And they set up the appointments.
Right,
They're approved through the town, they're approved through us.
great.
They set up the appointments with the homeowners. It takes a whole litany of things off
yeah,
the
yeah,
table.
yeah. Any idea what that cost was, Alex? But of course, you guys had so many, you had thousands.
Yeah.
You definitely got, a economy to scale.
Right. We put it up to bid.
Yeah, okay.
The MXUs in question, in here again, I don't mean to sound dumb about it. Are they the ones that can do, AMI?
yes. So the
So
only,
if,
the only radio
if there was
going,
ever a point-to-point system created, there would not be yet another changeout. These,
correct, the new radios coming, that would be, supplied would be the migratable AMI style. They don't make the, or the radio read-only style anymore, they only
Okay,
make
they-
the
they- okay.
migratable, yeah.
all right.
Yeah, you guys are talking shop. Rocco,
Yep.
what, just in layman's terms, what does that mean, the AMI?
So the evolution of meter reading, so AMI is advanced meter reading, or advanced meter reading infrastructure.
Correct.
Okay, yeah,
That's
And
the
ba-
catalog
basi-
you don't want.
Basically,
Why do
what,
you want it?
He
Yeah.
doesn't want.
Well, he doesn't want it, but it's where you wanna be.
yeah, basically it's the future. It's what they call smart city technology. You can
Right,
incorporate
okay.
all reading technologies. Basically, what, in the most basic terms, the meter sends a signal to the radio sends a signal to the tower, and you can do all your reading right from a desk.
Okay, and that,
Now,
that
what
could be
this-
tied in with the internet when you use the word radio?
No.
No, it's all.
Totally
It's not
different. Okay.
Wi-Fi, it's nothing like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
That's the advantage
You're
of
one of those
census.
freaky customers you go to and you're all worried about who's dialing in.
Yeah, that's the big advantage to census over our competitors, is that we have our own radio, signal that we use as proprietary that nobody else is on.
Okay, your own frequency.
We
Yep.
have our own frequency.
So one of the advantages, Rob, that this comes down to in reporting the DEP for unaccounted water, you can break your reporting down from 4 times a day to 6 times a day.
Yeah,
So
which
a
is-
24-hour period, you get a much more accurate,
Right, right,
real world, what's going on in the system
right,
for
Right.
reportable.
What's nice for Peter at some point is the customer calls up, they said, my bill's way too high, what is it? They could, basically, he could look through and say, okay, well, from 6 o'clock, somebody woke up and took a shower.
Yeah.
That's how accurate it is.
okay.
I'm not sure if that's a selling point for
Yeah.
No, it's just gonna
You have a-
That's scary, but.
If you have a troublesome customer, we now have a meter that we could work with, that Peter could shut him off from his desk.
Yeah,
So basically what Census is trying to do and what EJP is gonna assist you in doing is basically, they're setting up a system that over the years is gonna grow. You're not gonna buy something that's gonna be outdated tomorrow, which is, always a concern. But this new
we're gonna
radio.
buy something that's not gonna be outdated. Underline that, bold, okay? Yeah,
Updated tomorrow, he said.
Yeah, tomorrow. By next week, it'll be different.
okay. Hope not. Okay, all right, gentlemen. First of all, Peter, what's your recommendation here?
As long as you're understanding the additional cost, if you go consecutive, I'd recommend that we buy this and then commit to, you're committing to sticking with it and just growing the system with EJP like you've done for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
And how does this fold into our budget?
You have quite a bit in your capital outlay account. I would just fund it right from there. It's not a recurring cost. It's a one-time thing over the next 5 or 10 years, hopefully, and move forward with that.
Okay, and so we're saying we do this one software support, and that's not gonna be reoccurring?
No, after this year, we'll end it, we'll cancel it if Peter doesn't want, you guys don't want to renew it, we'll just cancel the yearly support.
The big thing is that it's kind of a backdoor way of getting you guys a better deal.
Yeah,
So if you were to just buy the upgrade or whatever, it's way more expensive than if you go on
I
support,
got you,
get the
I got
upgrade.
you.
and then-
okay. Perfect, perfect.
And,
What do
and
you think
one,
of, Paul?
Robert, if I may,
Let's do-
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
it's okay.
another thing I'd like to offer you, if you guys would be open to it, is I'd love to have a census give you a presentation on what the future is, because I was telling you about the AMI. We'd love to give you a presentation, just even for your own education, just to see what's coming up. It's really interesting. It would really explain, some of the reasons that we're so passionate about, moving in that
Right,
direction.
right.
I don't know, if you ever, we don't have to commit to it now,
Right,
but.
right, and maybe, I'm just thinking as Peter is, keep that in mind for if we're gonna go consecutive, then we would definitely
Right.
wanna look at that, because, we're looking for, what do we got, about 180, 200 metered customers right now?
No, we have 300 from ourselves and 100 from Southbridge. But Southbridge has 200 metered water customers. And the number of metered water customers is gonna grow exponentially with the two projects we have going on. You're talking at least 80 new connections on Berry Corner Road, and then with the school loop is probably gonna be another 100 or probably more. So you're gonna have 200 more meters to read.
All right, so,
But with those customers connecting under those particular projects, that's gonna pay for us going consecutive to change over the MXUs, essentially.
Casella, on the Casella project, there are no connection fees.
That's what I'm saying to you. We're not gonna pay for the equipment on any of that.
Yes, because they're gonna be
Right.
included, yes,
yeah,
because they're gonna have to purchase the meter.
Yeah.
However, when you do meters, you charge, how much, a meter's we charge $275 for a 3/4 inch meters, but we do not charge anything for the MXU, which is still a cost to the
yeah.
department.
Should be wrapped right into that.
It just came to me that I believe our meter charge is the cost of the meter only, and we don't build in any cost to do the
I'll give
MXUs.
you ours.
So we may have to,
Look at it.
may have to look into that and make sure that you're not losing the cost of the MXU to get someone to connect to a meter, because I think
it should
that's
be.
what's happening.
It should be wrapped into our workshop.
Okay,
It's coming
A
up.
lot of towns that I work with will just hand the bill right over to the customer.
yeah, we do that, but we're not charging the correct amount. I believe we're charging for the meter only, and we're not charging for the MXUs, so. Just have to make sure we discuss that a little more.
Okay. What are you thinking, Alex?
I'll make a motion, we go with it.
Go with the purchase of the reader and,
Yeah.
and the
Make a motion.
program of the software,
Yeah.
in order to get the price down from 12 to 6, which also includes our trade-in.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any more discussion?
So you want a figure with that, Rob?
The figure is gonna be,
85, 86, 18?
It's on the
That
bottom.
includes the command link and the year of software support.
Yes.
85, 86,
18.
16.
Yep, yep, okay. All right, and based on Mr. Boria's announced about budget, we have the funds to pay for this, so, okay. All those in favor of the purchase, say by aye.
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 Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen, and stay in contact with Peter, and maybe we'll be having that presentation
We'd love
sooner
to.
than you think.
Yeah, let us know. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
gentlemen.
Yep, thanks for
Thank you
your
for your time.
Sorry about last meeting.
No problem.
Yeah, a lot of snow.
Okay, so this one is on hold. This one here is all set.
This Norman's not gonna show.
Nope.
Those of, yeah. Okay, so that's done. That's on hold. Okay. Alex had a phone call or something? Alex?
Unless you just wanted to,
Oh, okay, maybe it's signing those guys. Okay. All right, so we're moving on to our operator, Violi.
Yep.
Memorandum of,
monthly operating report.
okay. Correct Exhibit C, CPI language, operating, okay. Keith?
Good evening and Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Hope all
you
is
as well.
The MOR for December 1st or 31st of 2017. There was no health and safety issues, no accidents, incidents. Our training topics for December was first aid and hand tool safety. In regards to compliance, there were no MPDES permit exceedances in the month of December, but there was one exceedance on the November quarterly toxicity. We did not meet the 7-day exposure of 93%. Our results were a 69.4. There was other facilities that had similar failures in the reproduction portion of the flea species. So the root cause is unknown, and we may never know what it is. It's something that we can't find, but we did do a resampling right away, and we're 100% in compliance.
What was that for?
The Daphnia, the little fleas, part of the test is they measure the reproduction rate. Our permit requires 93% reproduction. Our result was 69% reproduction, so it failed. As part of any time we have an issue in compliance, our QA manager did some investigation. Turns out we had another one of our facilities have a similar failure. And when we reached out to the contract lab, although they wouldn't discuss what other plants had failures, there were other ones that failed as well. We don't know, it sounded like it was a lab issue. They said that their protocols all showed that everything was fine. We resampled our other facility that had a similar problem, resampled and tested, and both came back 100% as well, so it's one of those things where we really don't know what happened, but we just didn't achieve the 93% reproduction of the fleas. So, we looked at all of our data, it, was no different than it should have been, so we're not really sure of the mechanism, but.
Okay. All set, Alex? Yep.
Yep.
Good. Thank you. Go ahead, Keith.
Yes, under the operations and maintenance activities, the weekly and monthly maintenance checklists were completed. The full generator load exercises were completed with no issues. All the preventative maintenance work orders were completed. During the inspection and maintenance of the snowplow in preparation for snowstorms, the cutting edge had to be replaced. And we had multiple snowstorms for snow removal at the treatment plant and pump stations. The drive belts were replaced on the RBCs number 5 and number 6. And EDS Mechanical Services had to come in and troubleshoot. There was no heat in the front office and the lab. They had determined that the blower motor had failed, so they had replaced it So now there was heat in the front office and the lab. The sewer department vehicle, excuse me, front and rear brakes were replaced along with the oil change and greasing. The monthly critical alarm tests, there was no issues. We do the influent high flow alarm, the headworks building, high level sump pit, and the high core unit equipment failure. And the EQ tank high level float switches, and they all work. So that's on a regular monthly preventative maintenance work order. On the pump station activities, all the pump station alarms were tested, and the full load generator tests were completed. We did sample the MTAs on December 14th and December 28th. In regards to collection systems, there was only one grinder pump call. The breaker was tripped, the pump was pulled and inspected, the pump tested bad. So they replaced the pump, system was tested under normal conditions, and there was no issues. And this was an original system. And lastly, we had 6 dig safes for the month of December. And I've attached the plant performance report, and I do have the up-to-date R&M budget to show where we're at with the attachment of the costs. So at this point in time, for the month of December, was $1,510.88. And attached is the expenditures, what they were for.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
Just for curiosity, you people pay for the brakes in the truck? Or do we, I don't remember what the agreement was. I thought you did maintenance, but I'm not sure. We own
I
the
will
truck.
follow up on that to confirm that's,
Well, how many
I will
miles
have-
are on those brakes?
excuse me?
How many miles are on those brakes?
We've had the vehicle for 1 year, there's 54,000 miles on the vehicle.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
Yeah, the vehicle's gotta be 5 years old.
1,000 miles a week.
Yeah, it's a big truck too, so it's got definitely some weight to it. I know we
It's a
lease the
heavy truck.
vehicle for $1 per year,
Right.
but I
I'd
think it
have to
falls
look.
under the R&M of the facility.
That's what I was gonna have to look at the lease
I think
agreement.
that's- I think that's the way it works. but-
I will get the answer for that.
That truck was new when you guys took over?
No.
No,
The truck's more than a year old.
It was 3-4 years old.
I believe.
No, Dave owned
So
it.
it's not 1,000 miles a week.
No.
Oh, that's, okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking they were there for a year and put
Yeah.
54,000.
No, they
on
came
it.
with the facility. yeah.
I understand, yeah.
I believe it's a 2012.
Yeah. I think it's probably
My
somewhere around there.
understanding.
I just didn't want you to think that they're doing that.
long ago.
It's a lot of trips around town.
Yeah, I would think.
Keith,
Yes,
turning to the plant performance report.
yes.
December. Any of these numbers jumping out at you? Or from your opinion as well, John?
No, the only thing that I'll just mention is that we did put that final RBC unit online starting at the beginning of November.
December.
What was it?
Beginning of December.
Beginning of December, excuse me. And, we're in the process of developing the bacterial growth on the wheel, on the
Yep,
RBC.
yep.
I think Keith's loading it now at about 40 to 60% right
Yes.
now, in an effort to kind of get it to go online. That will put us at 100% in terms of what our capabilities are for treatment. So going into the new permit season, which starts in April, we'll have a full complement of RBCs to help address some of the BOD loading concerns that we had
Okay.
discussed towards the end of the permit season last year.
Help me out here. I thought there was an RBC or 2 RBCs we couldn't run.
There are.
That's
Because
correct.
of the barrens and because of maybe some leakage.
No.
We're running 8 out of 10, sir.
Okay, all right. So 8 out
We,
of 10.
we had 7 online to begin with.
Yeah.
And then number 1 and 2 are out of service.
Okay, yep,
And number 3 was a standby. Now number 3 is being put into service.
okay.
So like John was saying, we got 40 to 60% of the load going into it to grow the bacteria. So at this time, we will have all 8 RBCs online.
Okay, but I see that the daily average flow for December was 200,000 gallons.
Yeah, it's less a flow concern and more of a loading
Gotcha.
concern.
Yep.
If you may recall, back in October, we started to see some pretty high influent BOD numbers coming in. and our ammonia compliance kind of slipped a little bit. So in, in preparation for the permit season, we just want to be out in front of it. These RBCs take a while to get online. They're not something you can just simply turn online. You have to develop a film.
Sure.
And it's cold, so that bacterial growth is slowed to begin with. So we wanted to give ourselves plenty of time for the spring season to be ready for it. So it's not a hydraulic flow issue that we're anticipating, it's more of a loading issue.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
these BOD numbers seem rather, very acceptable. I don't see anything that's high here.
That's on the effluent, it's the influent that we're having, the high BOD loadings. That's coming in and you have the BOD and then
Okay,
the
but-
ammonia.
You're talking aluminum,
Yeah, these are effluent
Ammonia.
numbers, we're discussing
Ammonia.
the influent.
ammonia, yeah.
So, this is the removal, this is what's leaving the facility, not what's coming in.
Okay, all right. But again, Keith, you guys are doing a great job down there as far as making sure that, that what is leaving the facility is all within the parameters.
Yes.
Yes.
So that, it's being taken care of. I guess it's always good to be cautious as far, rather than having to, hit the panic button saying,
Yeah, unfortunately,
Throwing our
the
lives
technology
at
we
it.
have requires us to be a little bit way out in front, simply because you just can't put that equipment online. So, if during the season, if we feel as though the issue is not warranted, we could always take one of the RBCs offline if need be.
Well-
But we're just preparing for that.
I think one of the misconceptions about looking at these numbers is if you look at BOD and where our effluent is actually 10% of our limit, that we have 90% room there, but that's not the case, because if our intake goes up 20%, you don't just increase this by 20, you fail and you exceed, either there or somewhere else.
It's not,
So these numbers look very nice and seems like we have plenty of room to take in much more loading, but it's not accurate, because it's not like you get to just ramp up and say, hey, you know what, we're getting too close, we better slow down. It goes from here to exceedance in 2 days if something doesn't work right.
well,
Yeah, it's a biological system predominantly. We've got two systems. You've got a biological system and you've got a chemical removal system. The chemical removal system, the COMAG,
Yep.
is robust. You can increase your chemical dose and make it, you've got another unit, very mechanical type removal. The biological system is less robust, if you will, and any changes to that loading can have immediate impacts on the biology's ability to do what you're asking that to do. And the biology removes the BOD and the ammonia. And those are the two primary concerns for treatment.
so I hear what Peter and you're saying, John, is that when we look at these numbers, we can't draw a rational conclusion is that if it increases, if the load increases or the volume increases by 20%, that the actual end result could be a lot higher.
Correct. That's where the modeling comes in, and part of, like what a Headworks study would do, where they model the entire facility as a unit, as opposed to just looking to say, hydraulically, we can take in another 200,000 gallons. But they will model it, and they'll run a model, and they'll change things in the model and see what that would do to different units in the plant, particularly on
Okay.
the biology side. Because
And
you're
again-
limited by DO, dissolved oxygen.
Right. I'm trying to put
predominantly.
this in kind of simple terms. If you're saying to handle the 200,000 gallons that's coming in right now, to be within our permit, and we're running 6 RBCs, plus we just put the other one online to
We're running 7.
We're running
8.
7, and we're just putting on the 8th one.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So if we were to double our flow, we would really need 16 RBCs. We only have 10,
Potentially,
two of them are down.
Flow is only a piece of the equation, because it depends what's in the flow.
Well, no,
right?
if we had flow similar to what's coming in right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Well, another important factor is our ammonia limitation now is different than what it will be in the spring.
Correct.
And when we had the exceedance in November, the limit was not 8.0, it was
It's 1.42.
Is that because we're dealing with temperature? Is that what we're?
It's a seasonal permit. The state, seasonally, you've got a lower limit for ammonia in the summertime than in the summer season than you do
Yep.
in the winter. And that's because of the impact on the receiving water.
And I think that's what John's concerned about, is not so much handling what we have coming in now, because it's working well. Our limit for ammonia is higher, but come springtime, when that limit comes back down,
Okay.
there could be some,
And what,
some issues that
it's
we're
at,
facing.
at 8.0, what's it gonna come down to when,
It's a
June
step
goes.
in, so
Okay.
April will be 3.12.
it goes down that much?
yeah.
It even goes
And then
lower.
it goes lower, and then in May, it is 2.7, and then at June 1st to October 31st
Okay.
is
And-
1.42 per
all right,
limit.
And right now, what we're discharging is 3.28.
That's
So-
correct.
And so how you compensate is with more juice, added chemicals, correct?
No, more RBCs. The chemicals
More RBCs.
remove the phosphorus and the metals.
Okay,
The ammonia and the BOD are a biological removal process. The biology, basically
Yeah.
the bacteria.
Do we know what's wrong with the other two RBCs?
well, that's a good question. That's an excellent question.
We had them,
Yes.
we had them we presented a
You're
report.
saying it's a good question, you're saying yes.
I
Okay, no,
attached,
no, it's a
I
very
had
good
additional
question.
notes on November's report that I gave in
Right.
December with the information on there when they were evaluated.
Yeah.
And the cost for the rebuilds. I don't have it with me now because it was on November's report.
Do we have money in capital that can,
It was over $500,000 to fix both RBCs.
okay.
We have 300 in capital. I do not know the exact number in retained earnings, but I believe that size of a project would pretty much wipe out any reserves you have.
Yeah, and it's,
You don't have that many. I think comfortably saying your retained earnings from last year was $600,000. So depending how much you have left from this year that we don't spend from this year's budget, we'll just add to that. And that's what you have
Even if
for
we
savings.
get one done this year and one done, I mean,
But I think that's why the headworks analysis is an important key before we just start saying, let's do this, this, or this.
Yeah, there might be a
That will
decision.
identify where we can make some improvements and maybe tell us where the best bang for the buck is. If we're looking at spending $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, get that study done, let them identify what's working well, what isn't, and where we can make some changes to be more efficient and to handle the concerns that we have.
You know, what we have currently are basically two biological systems. You've got the RBCs, which was the biological system of design for the plant. And then several years ago, our predecessor kind of developed this quasi-activated sludge system in those EQ tanks where they're introducing DO and you're getting some biological removal there. It may be more beneficial to look at improving that system to get more out of that through some sort of capital upgrade, better diffusers, make a better fish tank, than looking at the RBCs. But someone needs to do that analysis. How much could you really get out of that? We know currently we're at 120% design of ammonia loading. So the plant is already seeing 120%, 20% greater than it was designed to remove it in terms of ammonia currently. So any more to that, it only makes that worse. We don't know where the break point is. We know in October, we started to see a sliding a little bit, which that's when we made the decision, hey, we better get this what we have available to us. But I think there may be other technologies that might do a better job than just putting those two RBCs units online. May not be, I think it just needs to be explored.
Or you can identify where the high levels of ammonia is coming from.
Sure.
Because with low levels of BOD, you can make up for the ammonia. When your BOD is increasing a little bit and it's not exceeding what we're supposed to be taking, it offsets your ability to treat ammonia. And I think that's kind of what we're coming into, is previously the BOD levels were low enough that we could make up for the extra ammonia, and that's not the case anymore. So we just need to look at it and, again, identify. We might not have to do anything. If you identify where that ammonia is coming from and stop some of it, our plant will run exactly as it should. If you get your ammonia to be at the right percentage with the rest of the waste, then the plant operates pretty good,
No,
as designed.
you're absolutely right, Peter.
But again, we just need a little bit more information before we take those steps, I think. That's all.
Yeah, and again, I don't see, the other unknown is the new permit. You know, we don't know what the state may require. They may lower your limits. They may say, okay, now the ammonia needs to go from 1.4 to 0.5. Some plants it's 0.1. It really depends on their analysis of the receivable.
Is it DEP or is it?
It's EPA.
EPA, so it's federal.
Yeah, did I say
Both.
DEP?
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay.
You
All right,
did, but it's both.
Yeah, I mean,
Correct.
DEP has oversight, but EPA issues the permit.
Okay,
Mass is a non-delegated state.
right. Peter, could you make sure, and if Keith needs to provide it to you, that you send to the commission is that report on the,
RBC cost?
on the RBC
Sure.
report? And that's the alternative, Frank, that you brought out, is maybe the answer isn't more. I'm sorry, John. Is the answer may be holding tanks rather than.
Yeah, well, I mean,
RBCs.
clearly, several years ago, our predecessor, you know, must have been faced with the same issue, and they retrofitted those EQ tanks, and it's done a very good job. I mean,
Yeah.
it's working. That was probably a creative thought, activity, where they said, hey, rather than do this, let's do that, see,
Yeah.
and it seemed to work. And in fact, Ty and Bond incorporated that into the O&M manual, so that now is a permanent part of your operations.
The other thing is that RBC technology is pretty old.
Oh,
so
yes, but-
to have those two big RBC tanks sitting there, maybe there's some new technology that we can put in there that's less expensive that could work better or get us to do something else a little bit better so that it offsets what we're having issues with. It's just, I think, and again, maybe I'm putting a lot of hopes in that Headworks analysis, but
Well, you know, I think the other part of the point of the Headworks analysis is at some point, probably sooner rather than later, you're gonna come to us and say, somebody wants to do something, what impact's it gonna have on the plant? We have no mechanism currently to tell you whether that's gonna be good or bad. I mean, that whole, the treehouse discussion early on in the spring was, this is what they're gonna give us, what does it mean? We looked at where we're at, and we said, well, it's gonna add this much to it, but we really don't know what impact it's gonna have till you actually take that load in. The model will do that for you to some reasonable
With
level.
Treehouse is, obviously, they've been open now for 4 months, 5 months. Yeah, probably
Longer.
longer, right. So when you look back at December, is there anything you can point to these end results? I'm not talking about the end results, because the end results, you
Well, again, what I
probably-
think we saw, and I plotted it, there's a graph that I shared with Peter where you could see the loading and the influent climbing, culminating in October. I think we had some pretty high influent BOD spikes,
Yeah,
like one was like 800 or something like that. So that gave us, not concern, but it was different. So we said, okay, we need to think about how to prepare for that.
the problem is we have weekly tests from Treehouse,
yep,
and those spikes didn't correlate with what their readings were. So you can't just say it's one user
No.
without having that data. So they have data that shows their weekly BOD reading from their tests,
yep.
and it wasn't consistent with what we're seeing come into the plant. So we have plenty of other industrial or commercial industrial users that we don't check to that level at this point. So,
Were we able to notice any spikes when September came and we had the 5 schools open with their lunchrooms? Any of that show?
Again, you know, my recollection of the last time we looked at the influent data was a slow, steady climb.
Yeah,
But I haven't looked at it in the last 30 to 45 days, but we
Okay.
could certainly do that analysis.
okay.
again, my point being, it's just a lot of bigger
Oh, there's
users
a lot of
on there
factors,
that,
yeah.
that we just don't have enough data to say yes or no at this point.
Yeah, and to Peter's point, it may make sense to invest capital at the point source as opposed to investing it at the end source. So I think that just analysis has to begin and start thinking it through.
Okay, moving on to the next subject here is, this is the annual CPI increase. And, John, what have you proposing here, at least?
Yeah, at
Based
the
on
last
our agreement.
meeting, you know, when November came around and we went to do the annual escalation, we realized that the schedule that was made part of the contract had a couple errors in it. The first one was, it anticipated a July 1st contract start date, so it used the April publishing of the CPI index,
Right,
which, that language remains. If we were to do that, I'd have to go all the way back to April, and that wouldn't even been a full year. So, so that was that issue. And the other issue was that it instructed us to use the April 2011 CPI index as the starting point. Well, you can imagine from 2011 to 2017, that index has gone up quite a bit. It would have been a nice pickup for me.
well, right, but doesn't it get reset
But you need the
every time
first
it
one.
gets paid?
Yeah, but the first one of this contract said stop with 2011.
Oh,
So I would-
that's wrong.
Right. So I found those two errors, and I brought it to Peter's attention. I said, I think two things. One, we should move the index. The index comes out every 2 months?
Every 2 months.
3
Every
months.
quarter.
Every 2
I had
months.
originally suggested we use November to November, year over change. Peter's recommendation was to use September, because that gives us a couple months to agree to it and then implement it November 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
almost
my-
positive it's you.
My second suggestion was, well, let's do September of 2016 to September of 2017, which is a
Yeah.
year period, as opposed to go all the way back to 2011 to 2016.
Are we
Just be-
using Boston Clerical on the CPI?
It's, whichever one is specified.
If
That's correct.
Towards the end of the package, it has a consumer price index. It says to use Boston Bracket Nashua.
Boston National,
Brockton, Nashua.
Yeah.
and then does it say clerical?
Urban wage earnings.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was just, those were the two errors I found in it, so we needed to come to an agreement on how best to address that. I mean, we could use the existing language, but it wouldn't
No.
be in the town's best interest to do that.
So as it stands right now, your contract runs from July 1 to June 30th?
No, November 1st to October 31st.
That's one of the biggest problems, is they were due, based on this contract, which was supposed to start July 1,
Yeah.
they were due an increase after 6 months being here, or 8 months. So this language will correct it to give them their annual increase on their actual anniversary. And
Okay.
then also use the correct starting date of the CPI index to September of 2016 to September 2017. And if you use those numbers, they're due
It was 2.7.
2.72% increase.
I did calculate what it would have been from 2011, it was about a 10%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 9%.
Nine.
And that increase is on the monthly, or on the annual contract cost, and it also affects the overtime rate and all of the other services that are in our contract with them. The only thing it does not affect is the $2,500 O&M monthly agreement. So John has some proposed language for you guys to consider, and if you approve it, you can sign it, and
That's on page 3 of page 2.
it's on the second page of that,
Right,
yes.
agreement of services dated November 1.
And if you look, the original CPI language is in the back of that packet as well, if you want to reference, if you want to look at that. I know there's a lot of stuff here that John put together to show you how it
Yeah,
all plays out, but
it's urban wage earners. Okay.
and again, I'm sure that was consistent with what was in your wood in the current contract. It kind of just got copied and pasted into the new one to be
That's what it looks
consistent.
like.
All right, so Frank, what'd you do? You did your calculations?
John.
I'm John, gosh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Alex, but, John. John, all right, I'm all set, Nate.
Name
John,
tags.
looking at, or at least your calculations, you went from November to October for the 1 year and came up with the 2.7?
No, well, Peter's suggesting we went from September to September. You need a 12-month period.
Okay, all right, because it lags back.
Right. I originally suggested November to November, but I think Peter's
All
correct.
right,
We should
all right.
probably do 2 months ahead.
If you went November to November, you're gonna be a month behind and having to be
Okay,
corrected
and
after.
we can, when you started July 1st,
No, we started November 1st.
oh, you started November 1st?
Right.
The language
All
says
right.
July 1st, but that's not
But that's the
accurate.
way the contract went out.
No, I understand.
So-
I understand.
Right, okay, all right, so as far as what we owe you, we owe you the increase based on the interpretation of the contract, your actual starting time from November 1st, 2016,
17.
to October 31st, 2017.
That was the first year of
That's
the
year one.
contract.
That's year one, right, so now we're in 17 to 18.
Correct.
Okay, so, and this isn't gonna be postpaid, it's supposed to be prepaid, correct? So that we base the new rate on the past, you have to.
12 months.
The past 12
The
months.
change over the 12-month period, the net change.
Okay, so wouldn't we be looking at 16, this is 17, wouldn't we go from 15 to 16 to figure out what percentage that was to give you the amount that it should be from November 1st to October 31st, 16 and 17?
No, because that was part of the
That
initial
was year one.
contract fee.
You're going too far back.
Okay,
The start contract, the first-year contract, that had already been, we gave,
That had already been
that fee had already
established.
been established.
okay, all right,
So they're not due this until after year one.
right, and I'm almost gonna get my brain on track here.
That's okay.
Is we're actually gonna do this almost as if you're a tenant, and we're gonna charge you, or we are the tenant, you're the landlord, and the thing is this is the new charges for this year based on the CPI on the past year. So the CPI for the past year was 2.7, so starting, it would have started for November 1st
Correct.
of this year, an increase
Yep.
in our base, our new base, because the base changes each year.
Correct.
By CPI. Okay. So, do you have the number of what the new base is for November?
Yeah, it's all part, I built a spreadsheet that I shared with Peter,
Okay.
which does all the calculations.
So the monthly base charge will go from 36,412.50 to 37,404.05,
And that reflects a 2.7.
2.72%.
So I think we're on page 4 here? Okay, all right.
And we're gonna owe them that change for the last 2 months, for November and December that we just paid.
Okay, and then also what's included in that CPI is any overtime, or the overtime rate?
Yeah, all of the things that are in that schedule, the overtime rate, the engineering fee, if we do any engineering work for you.
Yep.
There's another tab which shows the impact of all those rates as well.
Yeah, they almost have the ability to surcharge us if our TSS and BODs go over a certain amount, and that
Right.
increases as well.
But that didn't happen in that 12-month period.
Correct, that has not happened yet.
Is that because of good operations, or just because of what we're taking?
No, I think it's just because the baseline starting point for TSS and BOD, the net change year over year hasn't exceeded that.
It's for
I think
influent.
Influent.
It's for influent.
Okay.
Yes, so if the influent goes
yeah.
up and they have to do more work to
Right,
treat it, they
right.
get to surcharge us based on that. But like John said, that has not happened yet. It's gone up a little bit,
Yeah,
but
it went
not
up a little
enough to
bit.
trigger that.
Right. I think I forget what the calculation is, Peter, but I think it's got to change by at least 15%.
BOD is 15, TSS is 20%,
Yeah, so that's a pretty big.
over the initial numbers.
Right.
Now, John, by your recommendations, we had raised our rates just, a couple of months ago, which included the loading rates to help cover this additional cost. So I think we're covered there.
Yeah, what that doesn't show is ammonia loading, right? It just
Yeah.
shows TSS and BOD. I think the real concern going forward with the project, with the plant, is the ammonia load, which is not part of any sort of analysis done on those calculations, so.
Well, it's not it's not an original concern
Right.
spelled in the contract at this time.
I guess, Keith, when you do your grab samples up at the pump stations of MTA 5 and 6, do you do ammonia levels when you do it?
We send the ammonia out, goes to an outside lab.
Okay,
It's on a 24-hour composite
Yep.
sample,
oh, okay,
flow paste.
Yep.
So that's how we take those samples,
okay,
and we send them to an outside lab, and then we get the results
That's
Okay.
done twice a month.
twice a month. That's
Okay.
correct.
good. I think it'd be important to the commissioners to have that in some type of graph,
Sure.
so,
Absolutely.
okay. All right, do we need a motion to make this payment here for this,
No,
or we already do it?
I think you need a motion to amend the contract based on what's in front of you from John,
Okay,
because there's a signature page for you guys to sign there, and then John can implement that percentage increase.
okay,
That's the second page in
okay.
that packet I have stapled together.
All right, I'll accept, what
The
Mr.
Article 3? Is that what we're amending?
The,
Be
yeah,
this-
Exhibit C, it's new language that John has in the letter.
Okay.
So the motion could be to accept the language change that John Oatley has presented, that's in front of you tonight. Paul, the language to approve?
Yeah.
Right, you have that right there, that first page right there.
This one with all my hand scratch on it, yeah.
You're not gonna sign
So
that
that
one.
would be it, okay, but as far as the form of the motion, Peter, is, because this is basically the consumer price index adjustment language.
But you'll see where it says, based on our discussions, and he has A in parentheses in Exhibit C.
Right.
You
So-
vote to change the current language in Exhibit C to reflect the changes he has there. It is highlighted, but I couldn't print it highlighted, so
Okay.
it doesn't really stick out like it should.
Okay. All right,
And that will change. The original Exhibit C is in the back that you can look at.
so that's what we're at right now, and this is what we're changing it to.
Correct.
So Exhibit C, Consumer Price Index Adjustment, this page.
That's original,
From-
that's the original language.
And we're gonna change it to this
Is it
page.
page 14 on the bottom, Alex?
No, this is Veolia's.
Oh, this is, yes.
Yeah,
If that's Veolia's, then that's what you want to reference for the
Yeah.
motion.
A,
Yep.
Exhibit C, Consumer Price
Oh,
Index
yes.
Adjustment, original language will be replaced with the following.
Yep.
The actual index listed, all right.
okay,
So I'll make a motion that we accept and approve Veolia's, adjustment to the contract. For Exhibit C, Consumer Price Index Adjustment, original language will be replaced with the following. The actual index listed for September 2016 of 262.606 will serve as the base for the future escalations. Therefore, on or about October 15th of each year, when the index for September is published, the computed percentage increase will be multiplied by the present annual cost to establish the annual budget for the ensuing year.
okay, we got a motion, got a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, just one thing is, under those statistics that they're posting on the CPI website,
The BLS.
they actually go, you can go there and it'll say exactly how much it's gone up for the year. So by using,
There's a copy of the actual table in that as well. I don't know if that one does it. I don't think
Ah.
that table does it. There's a formula in the contract for it.
Yeah, there's a formula
Yeah.
in the contract
It
to take
says
the actual
initial
value.
minus the
all
final
right, okay,
divided by the.
okay, I know, and again, my problem is I've got a little bit of experience with this, that makes me dangerous. I know that, the table, which is, again, the years in each 2-month period, it'll actually give the increase for the entire year, if you go to a certain thing. But
Some
again-
tables do. I've seen those tables where it actually tells you, like, one of my contracts, the BLS that's
Right.
chosen tells you the percent change is 2 something. It
Exactly,
doesn't give you the
right,
numbers.
right.
The table we're using, the BLS, it only gives you the table. It gives you what the value is, and you have to do the formula according to the contract.
Right, so what's gonna happen is that by having the baseline of 2.6, what is it, 2.6, 2 point whatever, then you will take the increase for this year, and then what happens is, when we go to do it the next time, the increase isn't based on 24 months, it's only based on 12.
Right, you reset
That's my point.
the initial
Okay.
as September of
Okay.
It's not
2017.
cumulative.
Exactly.
Right,
Okay,
yeah, no,
Okay, all right, so we're all squared away with that.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, there's still some, we're not done yet.
No, I know we're not done with, I'm going to Headworks here. Is
No.
that where it's supposed to be?
Nope,
Well,
still have I and I to talk about.
I'm only doing this by staple by staple. You got.
You didn't, there's still more pages,
Oh, it's
staples.
compound?
There's still more
Compound
pages back
motions
there.
within this, yeah?
There's compound information in that one staple, yes.
Regulatory requirements of I&I?
Yes. So December 31st, 2017, we're supposed to have a sewer system evaluation survey ready to submit to the DEP that I guess has been in the works, and the mandate has been there since 2014. So we did not have that at that time, and we did request, Paul Rodman from Veolia did the report for us that I forwarded to you guys, where he referenced the Phase 1 I&I study that was done in the summertime, and referenced some of the work that we were going to be doing moving forward over the next 2 years, and asked for a 2-year extension. Since that report was sent in, I got a phone call and email from David Boyer from the DEP, and he said, at this point, he's not aware that they're handing out 2-year extensions. So since then, I talked to Paul and talked about the scope that he had, that we sent in at first, and tried to get a better understanding of what we actually had to get done in order to have that sewer system evaluation survey completed, so that we can submit that and then kind of use that survey to move forward in what we do for I&I over the next 5 to 10 years. So in talking to David Boyer, that's the whole plan, is to do some groundwork, identify where your issues are in the sewer system, in that survey, and then take that survey and implement repairs and changes that need to be done for I&I issues over the next 5 to 10 years. So, one of the first things we have to do is map the entire system, which last year, as part of your I&I Phase 1 study, Paul mapped the 17,000 feet as part of that. So the first thing we have to do is map the rest of it, and then from there, the bigger cost would be to go ahead and do a flow monitoring program, so that we identify where there are issues that we need to kind of do more extensive research. So in talking to Paul, I hate handing out new information meeting night, but Rob, if you want to pass that around. Paul sent this to me today. In our contract with Veolia, we have a certain amount of funds per year to be used for CCTV inspections. And I was thinking about it, and to spend money on CCTV inspections with not identifying the correct area to do didn't make sense. So Paul sat and talked to John, and they're willing to take the funds from the CCTV and use that to finish mapping the GIS data and complete mapping the system. In reading through the requirements for flow monitoring, it was also said that we can use pump station data to possibly give us some of that flow monitoring data. So I mentioned that to Paul, and he also has a price here of what either 4 or 2 meter flow monitoring project would look like this spring. So,
We already have meters on the pump stations.
flow monitoring, you have meters
We-
on your pump
No, we
stations?
have run,
Those
we
data-
have hour meters, we know how long it runs.
Yeah, we got those DACA meters. What are those things called?
The
That is run meters. Flow meters.
Okay,
different.
no, you're correct. They're not flow meters, they're run meters.
There's hour meters.
So,
But the plan is to use that run meter to understand how much time, and with the flow of the pumps, we can back into hopefully what a flow is. I've been talking to Chris McClure to try and get some information on those data loggers that you
yeah,
guys
yeah, that's
installed.
what yeah.
And my understanding is they didn't work great in the first place, so I'm just trying to get a handle on what they are, where they are, and if they're still there, and if we can get them to
The
work
problem
better.
with a lot of these data loggers or flow meters is converting them to some kind of easily formatted form. Most of them have their own language, their own programs, and they don't, I don't know, do you find
Yeah,
this?
no, it's.
They don't
it's-
convert over to Excel or something simple
and
very
that's-
easily.
That's why we end up outsourcing it to someone like ADI.
Yeah.
Who actually comes in, puts the flow meter in,
Yep.
they upload the data and they give you a report.
Yep, it's so much easier. That's what they do 24/7, but you kinda gotta narrow down where your focus is.
Where you wanna put them, yeah.
And that's the point of mapping, finish mapping the system first, identify where it is, where your issues are, and how you're gonna install your flow meters. So, in talking to David Boyer, he said for flow monitoring, they're looking for 1 flow meter for every 20,000 linear feet of pipe, is the basic reference point. Once our system is mapped, if you guys were to say, go ahead and have Paul GIS map that system with the CCTV money, and he gets on that right away, we may be able to have this plan in place so that we can do the flow monitoring this spring, which is when you want to do it. Otherwise, if Paul doesn't map the system soon, we're gonna have to, if you want to do a true flow monitoring program, you're gonna have to do that next spring, because you're not gonna want to do it in the summer or the fall, because it's not accurate.
Well, you know, it's not telling of where the problems are because of the,
Why are you getting away, how big's the system?
How big is our system?
How many miles of pipe?
I'm gonna guess it's,
700 and, I'll have to get the information, I'm not gonna.
It's in the contract, I think.
It is in the contract.
How many
I don't-
feet?
I don't have a
Not that
copy.
big. I think 17,000 feet was, what, 1/5?
that was Glen Echo.
No, but in our contract, we're required to do 17,000 feet of CCTV work.
oh,
So it's
yeah.
like 15 miles.
Yeah, and then I think that was 1/5 of your system, that's
So-
why they.
Out of that, how much can you even run a camera down? So much.
Well, we don't even know what all the pipe is
convoluted,
yet, I think that's part of what the GIS is gonna
Okay.
do, is it's gonna tell you how much of this pipe and where it's
Cause
located.
you get all this convoluted 2-inch crap in the ground that is town stuff.
The,
it's-
the
you can't do
grind-
anything
grinder
with it.
pumps and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so wherever we have the pump stations, a lot of the homes are connected, especially around the lake, are pumps. Those pumps are, I think, they're on 1.25 inches, or an inch and a half.
Whatever, you
Right.
can't really,
No, you can't, no, you can't.
there's nothing you can
So,
really do.
Frank, what you're proposing here is you're gonna trade off a
John.
one. Oh, John.
Christ.
I had to turn my page over. Sorry, John. So, John, what we're saying here is what you're proposing, you're going to trade off the 1,700 feet of cameraing,
17,000, yeah,
17,000, for doing, for mapping only?
yes,
Just for mapping?
yeah.
Okay, and that mapping includes, of the entire system?
Right.
The remainder of the system that wasn't done last year.
Okay.
Up to, I think it's in here, up to 72 and a half hours, and if there's more time after that to
Oh,
finish,
you're gonna need more,
it's a flat
72
rate.
hours. Yeah.
In talking to
Paul's
Paul, he was
good,
pretty,
yeah.
he said he
It's
could
not
give
that
us,
big of a system,
he
Rob.
said he could give us 2 to 3 days a week and have it done in time to get this flow monitoring program set up
You're gonna
for this,
take-
for this
take-
spring.
You're gonna take every manhole cover off?
No.
Okay.
No, he's not inspecting the manholes, he's gonna identify pipe segments from manhole to manhole, right, is that?
So how can you identify them if
You
he
have to
doesn't
take a
take
manhole
off the
cover
cover?
off to identify the segment, no?
Oh, that's a good question, I shouldn't say, yeah, I don't know what he's gonna do.
I believe,
I would think most of our,
You mean in terms of identifying the pipe size, you mean?
and direction
Yeah,
and where
yeah,
it goes.
yeah. No, you're right, you're right.
Yes, I believe he's going to. And again, there's also gonna be, police detail costs associated
Yeah,
with
so-
this, depending on how busy the road he's on and what he kinda runs into, so.
Yeah, but how many manholes are there? A couple hundred?
Well, I don't know, there was more than that in the Glen Echo area. If you look at the GIS data, there was a bunch of green dots on there.
and so what they will do is they will have the equipment to where they have the tower, click it for the GIS? Is that what they're doing?
I don't know how he's got, yeah, the Trimble unit, yeah, I believe that's what he's using.
I believe so.
They're not even on a stick anymore, Rob.
It's a handheld
Looks
Trimble.
like
It's handheld now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to be candid, Paul's been working directly with Peter, he kind of is my UGAM guy, he pretty much does this, and he's like, yeah, well, it should take me about this much time. I said, okay, as long as, it's apples to apples, go for it. But I can certainly bring him in to meet with you guys and, tell you exactly how he's gonna do what he's
Yep.
gonna do.
Keith, you've had, I think you've had ample time, or I think you've, through working the system, you've gone over those maps, those prints. And now, are those prints are as-built, or are those the prints that went out for bid?
No,
That
the
you-
ones I'm using are as-built.
They're
When I have to
as-bills.
locate something, they're as-built.
Okay, and those as-built are pretty accurate as far as pipe size Have you found that?
That I haven't found yet.
You haven't found to be accurate as far as pipe
Well,
size?
the pipe sizes that we have, the only ones we've checked into basically were for the Burlingame pump station. So,
Okay.
other than that, pipe sizes, most of the collection system, we haven't had to, mark anything out in that aspect of diameter of pipes.
Okay, all right, but in looking at those plans, I'm just making assumptions. They're either 8, 10s, or 12s. I don't think we have anything bigger than a 12, do we?
No, not that I've seen. no.
Right. All right, so
Most is 8 and 10,
8 and 10.
yes,
For instance, like McSona Home, I think it's 10s,
correct.
right? And then maybe when it gets down to Route 20, does it still stay at 10, or does it kick up a little bit
No, I think it goes up to 12 when it gets to,
to 20,
Route 20,
and then go down into the system?
right.
All right, so I think, again, I'm just thinking in my mind here is that as far as the pipe mapping goes, data that we have, I think, is fairly accurate because the system's what, 15, 18 years old for the most part?
Approximately, yeah, there
Yeah.
was the 3 phases, you had phase
Right.
1, phase 2, and phase 3.
I believe 2 and 3 got kind of combined when they happened. They happened both at the same time, even they called one 2 and the other one 3.
Yeah, I'm just going the way the as-built are
Exactly,
labeled in the
right,
maps.
right. So then it boils down to just, well, if you're gonna pop the cover, then
Yes.
have they been taking the elevations when they pop the cover? From top of the cover down to where the, where the inverts are?
The only work we've done so far is the stuff out by, that was previously done, which he submitted that report to you.
Well, he did the Glen Echo area he did last year, and he took Wooden and Curran's data from the previous year for some of the stuff they did, or whether it was 2 years or 3 years ago. I'm not sure if he actually took depth. I don't know what his report was for each manhole that he popped. I'd have to ask him.
Yeah,
We did do
But in
manhole
GIS,
inspections.
elevation between rim and table isn't really significant.
no, but actually, I think in those as-bills, all the rims, because I've seen them, I know when,
There are elevations
specifically, oh, yeah,
listed.
yeah, and it'll like say 971.63 as far as the rim elevation, and it'll actually give a benchmark somewhere. So the next question is, I guess what you'd want to know is how deep is the pipe? So that would be the essence of popping the cover, is exactly how deep is the pipe to where the flow is.
And I know
And
he did a
doing
pretty
the collect-
significant amount of manholes in that area and
Yes.
provided, according to MAACP, which is the standard on how to do exactly that.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think his plan is to use a combination of everything that's available, the as-built, the existing GIS. He also uses we have a purpose-built software program called InfoNet, where he loads that all in, and he can actually create a sewer map, which shows every asset, and then dig into each asset with all the detail. It's like a pop-up window. You click on it, it pops up exactly what that pipe segment is made of, its depth, its size. And then any work orders that were done. I mean, that's ultimately what the state's looking for you to have. The plan here was just, why, like Peter said, why spend our time and resources in CCTV and when we really need to be doing this first in order to get out in front of what the state's requiring.
This is gonna identify the area to follow through with the CCTV the following year.
Right.
So I think if you guys are committed to following through and doing what's required to complete the sewer system evaluation survey, which is to finish mapping the system and then do this flow monitoring program, then we can have that done by, the end of the year, have the monitoring done, have a report done, and be able to turn that into DEP and be compliant. I think that'd be a great goal. And if you're comfortable enough to swap out the CCTV work for the GIS mapping, and then somewhat commit to doing the flow monitoring this spring, then Paul can get on that immediately. If you're not committed to it at this time, then we don't need to have Paul jump onto it at this time, and we can explore this in a different avenue, depending on which way you want to go.
So my question still stands. You guys did 1/5 of the system, right?
yeah.
I believe it's 1/5, 17,000.
Of which, out of that 17,000 feet, about how much of it could you run a camera down?
Well, he did 17,000 feet of CCTV.
Oh,
work.
okay, that was CCTV, okay.
Well, we also did other SSES stuff. We did smoke testing, he did
Yes.
manhole inspections.
All right.
We picked an area that we knew was mapped, and we picked an area that we saw high flow during rain events or high water table, because that's the information we had at the time. Didn't find much in terms of defects, in the areas that were cambered. So in one respect, we'll say, hey, that's tight, so the issues with, high flows has gotta be inflow and not infiltration, whether that's sump pumps, roof leaders, whatever, but.
Alex, I think
Yeah, but
part of the point is some grinder pumps just pump to a gravity feed line.
Right.
And some grinder pumps pump to a pressurized
through a
line,
pressure line.
depending
like
which
on my
side of the
street.
lake you're on.
Yeah,
So there's still,
But on those lines that pump to a pressure line, we have no way of telling, there's no way to do a smoke test?
correct.
correct, yes.
Right.
So there's no way of telling of any
Do
I
they-
and I issues
do they-
or any illegal connections that are made to that. We all agree with that?
I'll agree.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
my point being.
But I don't think there's that many of those. I don't think there's,
That's what I'm trying to get
I
to.
understand. I think there's only one portion along your side of the lake that has that. Like the entire other side of the lake, Glen Echo Shore Drive, Park Road, they all pump to the gravity line, which does go down to a pump station and pumps directly
fine.
to another portion. But there's only one portion. I don't know if Lakeview is like that as well.
No, there's no pump station there.
So they
They all pump up
pump
to
to a
31.
gravity line.
They all pump up to 31,
So there's
and
only,
that's where the gravity line is.
so it's probably 2 miles that where the grinder pumps pump to a pressure line.
Well, yeah, the entire length of the lake on that side,
So
yeah, it's almost 1.7 miles.
How many services would you say that is, Rob?
Oh.
10, 50?
Oh, no, 80 comes into my mind. Well, okay, no, I take that back. It'd have to be, well, again, when you
Yeah.
consider both sides of the street, I'd say about 80, because as far as the lake got about 120 residents, lakefront, so half and half, 60, but then you got the back lots, which, and especially that village area there, right around Overlook and in that area, there's a bunch of homes there.
So other than gaining access to each resident,
Yeah,
there's no way of telling what's tied in or what's not.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And all you can do is, I guess, is just look at the flow and say, does that flow make sense based on the amount of homes and,
Well, that's what we did, that's why, we targeted that, we were
Right.
not hoping to find defects, but,
Yeah, but if
it would've
they're
been
on-
easier if we did.
If they're not metered and they're on Title V, there's no other, at least if they were metered, you could kinda add it up and see if they're, the area's in, but it's not the case.
Peter, I would say, boiling this down, I think the number one task would be to go back to Mr. Boyer and then give him a request for a 1-year extension instead of asking for a 2-year. Get your extension, okay? Then, if you would,
So, the extension's gonna be based on the work we're gonna do for this year.
okay, and then we'll talk about the work, all right? So, is what we're talking about right now, is it 1 task, 2 tasks, or 3 tasks? One, I think, is first about identifying the system, or
So
mapping the system.
There's gonna be 3 tasks, yes. The first decision to make would be, do you agree to exchange or swap the CCTV work for GIS mapping?
Okay, so that would be the
That's
exchange.
task
and-
1, yep.
Okay, and that would be what, $18,000 swap off, how
A
much? it is?
charge?
No, it's 25 cents a foot, so whatever, 25, I think it's like 4,500 bucks or something like that. It's 25 cent, in our contract, it's 25 cents a linear foot for CCTV work. So you
Okay.
take 17,000 divided by 25 cents, and you come up with, I don't know, 4 or 5 grand, something like that.
Yeah,
probably
but.
4,500.
And I think that's where Paul came up with the 72 hours. He then took that dollar amount and said, this times 60 bucks an hour, divided by, is 72 hours. So I'm gonna give you 72 hours. He thinks that's enough, but if not, he then referenced the
$60
engineering
an hour.
rate that's in there. We're trying to work within the contract. We don't wanna create another,
Right, right. But if you did 1/5 of the work last spring, you didn't do it in spring, they did it in August.
Different work.
Well, no, no, it was the mapping, because I remember pulling out of my street, and they were working there on a Saturday.
it was a
Pop on the
series of
cover.
activities. It's everything that's in
Right.
that annual
Right,
report that we
right.
submitted.
So if it was 1/5 of the system, then I'm saying the system's approximately 85,000 feet, because 17 is 1/5. So we've got, so we got close to
75,000 feet.
All right, 75,000 feet.
So you have 60 left.
So a quarter of that is, that's 17, 18 grand. In other words, 25 cents a foot?
Yeah, but we're not CCTVing the entire system every year. We're only doing 1/5 every year.
Oh, okay, I understand that. All right, but what you want to do is you want to trade off that TV work for doing this mapping work?
It's really just changing, it's using the same dollar amount, the same amount of man-hours, and putting it towards mapping instead of
It's a difference of
cameraing.
$100.
So,
But it's not dollar for dollar.
It's a difference of $100.
is it,
I get bottom line, are you going to do 71,000 feet for, what'd you say, between $4,000 and $5,000?
yeah, I mean, it's whatever that.
That seems simple.
He's gonna give you 72 and a half hours of GIS work. If he doesn't get it done in that time, there's gonna be a $60 per hour rate for him to finish. So he thinks he can get it done in that time. If something changes, again, there's always a possibility he'll be back for more, but hopefully not.
We're not viewing this as a moneymaker, it's just man-hours. It's just a matter of doing, as Peter described, what you have to do first, and to do it in a way that doesn't require you to spend any more money than you've already committed.
If you want them to do the CCTV work, we can pay them to do.
No, we don't, okay, so I'm just trying to boil down exactly what the scope of work is for phase one.
Okay, so-
Which you're gonna
so-
map that, so it's converted onto paper by CSI.
Yeah,
and then,
in a computer software that you can then print maps from, yeah.
Right, okay, and then included in that is each manhole will be given a number, and it's gonna be given a
An asset
lats and
ID
longs
number.
of that? All right, and then also, are we gonna get will they pop the cover and give us the depth?
I believe that's the way he's gonna do it. Again, I apologize, I probably
No,
should have Paul here
yeah.
speaking, but I can get, Peter can get those questions to me in written, and I'll get a written answer back.
I can
to you.
email Paul and ask him.
Okay, so get a true scope of work.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, I mean, like I said, I believe that the as-bills that we have on file are pretty
Yeah, I think
accurate.
Paul is gonna use every asset is currently available. He's not gonna recreate anything that already exists. He's gonna incorporate,
Okay.
that's my
So,
understanding.
Frank, when we get done, as far as this,
John.
John, I did- gosh almighty, melt the block here, John, sorry. So when we get done with this, we're gonna actually have a layer that can be put in to the current system that we have here in town at the assessor's office.
Yes, he'll be able to export that to whatever format that is, at Esri, or
Okay.
I forget what it is.
All right, because what we would do,
ArcGIS or something.
Yeah.
what we would do with that is then we're gonna follow up with water,
It's really
doing the
not my
exact
They
same
already
thing.
have that water data.
We're close, yeah.
Beta that data's there. Beta did that for our entire system.
When did they do it?
As part of your water master plan. Todd already has all that information.
Did he use what we already had existing?
I'm sure they used whatever,
GIS?
yes. I'm sure Beta used whatever Dewberry had and just went and did the extra they had to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's already completed.
Okay, so that's task one.
That's task one.
Okay. All right, we want to take these one at a time? As far as the vote?
No, let's just do it as a package. It's all gotta be done
Yeah, I'm not-
for the DEP.
Well, again, no, we just bought a year, it doesn't have to be done.
We
Yes,
did,
it's gonna
no,
be
all
done
this
by
has to be
December.
done
No,
before we can go back to
yes,
the DEP, bro.
You have to do the flow monitoring as well in order to get your sewer system evaluation survey
Right.
done, and that's what has to be done by the end of the
It's
year.
all that 2014 I&I stuff.
So that's step one, the completing what needs to be done. Step two is to do your flow monitoring this spring. And then you finalize that with a report, which is called the Sewer System Evaluation Survey, and that's what you present, and that's what gets you compliant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and then, you will develop a capital plan and,
Yes.
Yep.
some SSES work going forward, cameraing, cleaning, et cetera, et cetera.
And that report's gonna have an added cost as well that we don't have at this time. To get a good report done that is effective.
John, taking the date that we need to have this, or the drop dead date by DEP, was it December 2017, or was it
Yes.
December 2018?
It was
December
December
2017.
All right, so we're out of compliance.
Yes.
Well, no, we submitted a report and asked for an extension to
Okay.
be fully in compliant.
All right, and we asked for a 2-year extension.
Well, in the regulation, it said you can ask for an extension, it didn't specify.
so
We
if-
asked
so-
for 2,
oh,
and Peter's saying, he got
Okay.
pushback saying.
So if we went back to him and asked for 1 year, what's the chances of getting 1 year from you having them?
You have to
Discussion.
identify, as long as, I'm
All
not
this has to
gonna,
be done, Rob.
I'm not gonna ask for
No,
an
no, it doesn't have to be done.
Yes.
Yes, it
You just-
does.
If you ask for the extension, you have to do it with the commitment to finish.
Right. Yeah, I promise.
No,
Okay.
I'm not asking for an extension based on a promise. I'd like to, if we're gonna ask for an extension, I wanna iron out
Yeah,
the work that's
yeah.
gonna be done, complete the work, and
I-
be compliant with what's
And
required.
again, we all want to make sure that we follow the rules here, but we also want to make sure, at least I want to make sure, is we're not adding extra costs onto our users here. Yeah, and we want to be as frugal as possible.
I see this work that we're doing as beneficial to us, and information that we're gonna use to make the system
But
better.
there's a cost to it, because Frank, what?
John.
John, what's number 2 and 3 going to cost?
Well, again, I think there's some reasonable information about a flow study. Paul's recommending we can use pump station data, you know, and that will involve some analysis. And then, once we have it mapped, we can strategically place where we want the flow meters to go to capture what the pump stations aren't giving us. And I think Paul gave, what, a 2 and 4 meter scenario?
So it depends, yeah, he gave 2 meters and 4 meters for 6 week and 8 weeks. And the cost, I mean, it seems reasonable to what they have to do, because it's not just putting meters in and they're there for 2 days. It's 6 or 8 weeks, and you also have to monitor all the rain data and have rain buckets set up at the same time. So you can show what we got for rain, and then you can also show how the flow changed based on that rain. So that's kind of, it's not to press you or to try and make you make a decision tonight, but if you want to do this flow monitoring project at the correct time, this decision needs to be made tonight, if you want to do it this spring. Otherwise,
It's January, Peter.
Paul has to spend 2 to 3 months mapping the system, so you know where to do the flow monitoring at. You have to know what the actual system is, so you can identify the areas to put the meters for the flow monitoring.
And then once you have that flow data, you can look at it and say, okay, these seem to be the areas where our highest flow is. Basically what you do is zone your system out, and then you focus your SSES repair work, the cammering, the cleaning in that area. That's gonna give you the greatest reduction in I&I. I mean, you're just being strategic about, you know, where you put your time over the next 5 years.
Out of our 600 customers, what do we got, 300 meters?
We have 300, and we use 100 from Southbridge, so
So we got 400 meters. So 2/3 of our system is on
Ballpark.
metered, which gives us a pretty good indication of where the majority of the flow is, based on those meter readings. Doesn't that give us the reading of I&I,
Right.
Correct.
but it gives us the reading of what people are paying for.
Well, where
'Cause we're
people are
charging for it.
tied in, right?
Yeah, and then we've got
Yeah,
the
that's
title.
only if the meter locations are relative to being dispersed throughout the system.
Yeah.
And the other.
Yeah, and then we got Title V people,
Right.
that there is no meter.
I don't think there's enough meters on the line to accurately do what you're thinking with that data.
Because the Title V people would have to be equally distributed throughout the rest of the system to balance out what you're trying to do. I'm trying to buy 12 months here, that's what I'm trying to do.
You have to
Rob,
commit to
every
doing.
system does this for
That's
the
m-
DEP. It's a comprehensive wastewater master plan.
You know-
Words you probably don't wanna hear, but that's what all
Oh,
of these
no,
systems
and I
do.
understand that, and I also understand that you've got, we've got minimum standards that we all have to live by. How's the city of Worcester doing on their lead?
I have no idea.
They can't pass, I'm telling you now, they can't pass.
What does that have to do with us?
I'm just saying, why isn't the DEP closing them down? Because you have to pass the lead test, right? You can't be giving water out with lead in it. They'd have to spend $20 million to replace their pipes. So just kind of like put the blinder on. All I'm just saying is, I'm thinking of our ratepayers here, I'm thinking of budget, that's what I'm thinking of. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do the work, but what I'm saying is, Paul and I have been here for 10, 11, 12 years, and we've had this I&I thing that we've worked on kind of, I don't want to call it in a farmer sense, but we have worked on it. We have found problems within our system that we've made great strides as far as reducing the flow. Because when, it used to be up 240,000 gallons a day. But, you find things and you make corrections. So that's all I'm trying to do, is rather than try to do all of this at once, is let's kind of, go after it piece by piece.
Well, again, unfortunately, the requirements in the NIPD's permit, and, there's a regulation on what that compliance with that language looks like. They have a document which basically says, in order to be compliant, these are all the things you have to do. And if you run the risk of not doing them, being out of compliance, and then if you're out of compliance with your permit, there's fines and all sorts of bad things that they can do.
I think if we have the sewer system evaluation survey done, which these two things in the report will get us to that point, it will also open the door for us to go for grant money for the I&I issues that we identify. If we don't, I think with all the stormwater stuff that's coming up, with the I&I issues, with this requirement that not many communities are gonna get this done. That, I don't think that's a reason why we shouldn't, but I think we can use this as a tool moving forward to say, all right, we're ahead of the pack, we've identified this, our survey's done. When a grant comes up for I&I work, we can apply, knowing that we have all the groundwork done, and submit for what we've identified for improvements to be made because of it. And again, it's not like it's $100,000 flow monitoring program. It's if we get lucky and we can use pump stations, it might be 2 meters for $11,000, which
Because the first task is covered by
the
what we'd already
CCTV.
planned on spending on
Yeah,
CCTV
yeah,
anyway.
Yep. And I hear what you're saying as far as making the investment so that we can be in front of the line as far as getting return on it. But I also heard you say is that there are people who aren't close to having any of this done.
There's other people not in compliance,
Yeah,
and I don't know what their intent
Yeah,
is at
yeah.
this time.
yep.
But, again, I think for what we have in front of us, it seems like a fair cost for us and for the users to identify issues that we know we have in our system. We know there's I&I issues. We know that when it
We see it
rains,
at the plant.
the flow rate goes from 200,000 to 8.
Yeah, what'd you hit the other day? A
The
million?
last rainstorm on that Friday with the ice melt, we were up in the million. The flow meter was just maxed
Yeah,
out. at the
yeah,
treatment
we've been there before. We've been
Oh,
higher than
I'm
that.
very,
And,
yes,
you know,
I've
it's-
seen the history.
That's
but
what happens,
when they start to stay up longer, then that's the issue,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the plant designed for peak flow is 0.7 for X amount of
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, I see the cover blow off one of the manholes down in right at 20 and
I
169.
hope not to see that.
I hope not to see it again either, but, no one wants to see those events, and that's the guy
Absolutely not.
upstairs that,
And that's considered an SSO, that's reportable.
yeah, yeah.
That's a violation of Clean Water Act.
So, yeah,
And I'm sorry, John, let's go back to the city of Worcester, what do they do to Lake Quinsigamon, Because,
It's kinda like, I say, my brother,
yeah,
Doesn't
yeah,
get you anything.
yeah. So Peter, looking at this with the 4 meters, now, are these our meters, are these rented meters, whose meters are these?
Yeah, they're rented meters.
Didn't we buy meters? Or we bought grabbers, that's what
bought
we
a
did.
sampler.
Samplers.
You bought
Okay.
one
Oh, we
sampler.
don't have any meters.
Not
There's
to
no
do
meters,
with,
one portable sample.
Yeah, these are rentals.
so like
So you-
John said, this costs, Paul works with a flow monitoring company. They'd come in, install the meters, collect the data, and do all the other work that needs to be done to get us through the requirement.
So these meters would be placed at a
In manholes
specific
at specific
manhole to where, where the flow is concentrated here, concentrated here.
Yeah, I think the plan is, once it's mapped, as Peter said, the recommendation is to split the system up into 20,000 length segments. And I think strategically, you can look at where the stations are and where areas aren't covered by perhaps that might be a good location for the meter. I personally don't, until I see the map and Paul explains to me why he thinks they should go here, here, and there, I don't wanna speculate, whether it's 2 or 4. But I think he's looking at it in terms of his experience with a system this size, it should be about 2 to 4 meters. should be able to get you enough information to be able to identify your I hotspots, if you will. And then you can break it up into zones.
Yeah.
And then within those zones, you can say, okay, I'm gonna do zone 1 and 2 this year, and 3 and 4 next year, you know, in terms of SSES work. That's typically how it works.
What's the cost for an inline meter when you put it in a pump station?
A mag meter? Well, it depends. I mean, for a non-full pipe, your options are either ultrasonic or some sort of partial flume type system.
Right.
And, I mean, it's probably, you know, $5,000 at least, you know.
Okay, because when you think about it, is, as far as going west of 169, all of that flow comes from the pump station. That's just up the street from there,
Correct.
okay? And then when you think about the school loop, all that flow comes from the pump station that's on Old Worcester Road.
No?
The pump station on
The
Old
pump
Worcester.
station from Mugget Hill pumps up to Old Worcester Road as well.
Pump station at Mugget Hill?
Yeah, Mugget Hill goes over to Old Worcester Road on, Morton Road.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, because there's, the pump station at Mugget Hill
Right,
pumps up to the next pump station.
which is Old
It's
Worcester
it's a
Road.
double pump.
Right.
Then from there, it'll
Goes up
go,
to Main Street.
does it go to the Main Street pump station, or does it go up to, by Masonic Home and go over the hill and down by gravity?
No, I believe it goes up to North Main.
So
North
it's,
Main
so
Street.
it's a third pump station.
Right,
So if we put a meter at the third pump station, we get everything that's on Old Worcester Road, Mugget Hill, and the two schools. Or
Yeah, but
or actually, one school
suggesting
is
is that we can
connected.
get you the same information by looking at pump run hours.
But Rob's thing is, for the cost, we can buy our own and do it, but there's also,
I'm not saying necessarily do it ourselves, but what I'm saying is we're gonna spend $15,000 yeah, let's call it 15 grand just for keeping the numbers easy. We can do all of that phase of, or at least Old Worcester Road and Mugget Hill with a meter at,
well, you gotta think of
Across
the
the old-
installation of the meter now, the way the piping is set up inside that pump station.
yeah,
You only have maybe 6 inches that goes into an elbow, and then maybe another foot.
so that's a
and
challenge.
There's, I'm not sure where you would, or how you would install a flow meter at that station.
it would.
Just with the piping configuration, it's so
Right.
short,
It
you
would
need
have to
X
go,
amount
it
of
would have to
feet.
go outside the pump
You
station
need
on
X
the
amount
outline.
of feet to measure flow, the way a meter
Right.
gets mounted,
Right.
so.
It depends on the type of meter, yeah.
Yeah, because that pump station is the same pump station we replaced on Mugget Hill. Remember the one we had to replace on Mugget Hill because it got flooded twice?
But again,
Yeah.
you can determine flow at that pump station based on just a wet well change in elevation and run hours. So we
Because
can-
that, yeah, but wouldn't that, shouldn't that be something that we should be trying to achieve? Is exactly,
Well, I think the point of the flow meters is to do it in places where we can't get pump station data. Because you're absolutely right, we can get flow data from any pump station reasonably accurate based on.
Either runtime or drawdown or what.
Right, exactly.
all right, okay,
But the flow meters would go, and that's why Paul doesn't know if it's 2 or 4 until he maps it
Right.
to say, in areas that you don't have any idea what your flow is, that's where you wanna put the
okay,
meter.
okay.
But again, you know, we don't know exactly how big the system is and, you know, what it is, and that's job one is getting the mapping. And then, yeah, you come back and strategically look at, you know, it might be 5 meters, you know, you might say, hey, I think I need really 5, or you might only need 1, I don't know, I don't wanna speculate.
Okay,
I
okay,
think
no, and
Paul in
again,
this exercise was just trying to give Peter
Yeah,
a rough
yeah.
idea of what it
Again,
would look like. the
I don't mean to
system.
ask so many questions, but
No, no, that's
I'm
fine.
starting to warm up here
No, that's fine.
to the,
so the point is I don't wanna just commit to one and have Paul rush out and do the mapping if there's no commitment to do the flow monitoring, cause if you're not gonna try and do the flow monitoring this spring, it takes the pressure off and we can kinda just step back, and if you wanna ask for a 2-year extension, you can, but I'm not sure that it would be given based on just to finish the GIS mapping this year and do the flow monitoring the following.
well, like I'm saying is that if we took on project number 1 and submitted that to Mr. Boyer and saying we're doing this and we need, you know, we're filing for an extension, and the plan is to do phase 2 and then phase 3 the following years. But I don't disagree that the information is valuable, okay? In that having equipment, permanent equipment, to know exactly where everything's coming from and when it's coming is very important, especially when we have these,
Yeah, well, the
These rain
long-term
events.
solution
Rain
is to
events.
find out where the INI is coming from and eliminate it. That's your goal. Your goal is to find out where the INI is coming from and then fix those issues. So when it rains, the plant doesn't change.
yeah. Go find me one in America that
Well,
works
you'd
that
be
way.
surprised at,
Yeah.
you know, I can certainly present a lot of data to show how we've dramatically reduced
Yeah,
INI in some areas. But it's at a cost, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It takes effort to do it. Communities like Taunton, Mass. and New Bedford, they've made tremendous reaches in terms of how much INI they've removed. A lot of that was under consent order, not
Well, yeah.
voluntary, but,
not that they wanted to do
you
it,
know,
yeah.
but,
And again, we want to be, you know, we want to be we don't want to be non-compliant.
and it's about protecting your assets too, you know, and, you know, like Keith said, you know, you peaked at 1 million, and those problems don't get better. You know, it's like, you know, an oil leak in your car. You know, it just gets worse. It doesn't get any better. So,
Okay, so number 2 is doing the flow test.
Yes.
So, the money doesn't start clicking until we get into number 2. So if we went with the 4 meters at 8 weeks, that's 16.5.
Yes.
Okay, all right, what's number 3?
Would be the cost to prepare the sewer system evaluation survey and submit it.
Say that again?
The cost to prepare,
Oh, I thought you said repair.
no,
Okay.
prepare the sewer system evaluation survey
Yeah.
and actually have Paul create the submittal for DEP. I think the report he filed last year was about $2,000.
yeah, it's all man hours, yeah.
So, I don't know if that's an accurate number, but that's what it costs us to do the report that we submitted at the end of the year.
All right, but so you think that's a ballpark? I'm not saying accurate.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
it's probably ballpark.
$2,000-$3,000?
Yeah, I would say.
All right, so under 20
Yeah,
grand,
it's
we get
much
all this done.
Cheaper than if you were to
Yes.
hire an engineering
Yeah.
company.
And you have 40,000 in the INI account.
And I wasted 20 minutes of you guys' time? Sorry, but,
But,
It's
yes,
Or
important.
John Frank 40 times.
if I didn't call John Frank so many times, we would be done a lot earlier.
and yes, and it will be done, actually, if Paul is able to do the mapping and get us the flow monitoring data done this spring, the report will probably be done by July.
As far as that
August.
aspect of it, yeah.
And we can be done well ahead of the 1-year extension, and we can send Mr. Boyer a revised request for an extension with the items that we talked about tonight and what we plan on presenting, and making sure that that's adequate for what we need to do to be in compliance.
And then ask them for the 2 years with the list of what we're doing and the cost,
Oh, why?
just in case we've missed something.
No, I think, again, in talking to Paul and John, I think this is, the scope of work is adequate, but I'll definitely make sure that what we present to him is adequate to get us compliant with what's required.
All right,
Yeah, we can even ask to have a meeting with him. I feel
Yep.
like.
all right. I guess,
He's pretty good like that.
all right, but so, as it stands right now, we do not have for the commissioners a scope of work that would be done. We just came up with close of what's going to be done. Like, I know you were
Correct.
going to get back to Paul and say, Paul, tell us exactly what you're going to do as far as this step number 1. You're going to pop each manhole, you're going to measure down?
Yes, I think he'll get me that information.
Okay, so how do we go forward here with a vote?
I would ask
as
that
long
you,
as the
that
scope
you
doesn't
vote to
change?
authorize the use of the CCTV money for the GIS mapping, and I can tell Paul that that was approved, and he can get going on that immediately, based on the scope of work he provides, that it includes popping the covers and identifying what's there.
The depth measurements
Yep.
and pipe size. Okay.
And then also approving either set a max or an estimate of $20,000 to do the flow monitoring and complete the report required, the sewer systems evaluation survey and the report for the DEP. And
Okay.
if that report costs more, or if we identify that we can use more pump stations and less meters, that cost will go down, and hopefully 4 meters as a max should be more than applicable for what we need for our system.
And this is coming out of our INI
Yes.
budget money?
Yes.
Okay, all right. How about a motion, gentlemen, if in fact that's your desire?
Well, I'll make a motion to substitute the GIS improvements for the CCTV, even trade-off. Right, there was no difference in money, it's just
No,
even.
it's all just, you know, a math, as
Okay.
far as man hours, that's right.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay,
I'll make a motion to take 20,000, or up to 20,000 from the INI budget for the flow meters and an end report to complete what we need to submit to DEP for our NIFTIs.
I'll second that.
okay. Any other discussion on that? Okay, and it's $20,000?
Up to
cap,
20.
Up to 20 cap, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Do I have you worn down?
No, it's getting going. Okay, what's next here with the cost proposal, the headworks analysis?
Yep.
And, okay, and this tie and bond's totally different.
I'm sorry.
This is not, this is totally different,
This is for the headworks analysis.
and this is tie and bond?
Ty and Bond was one of the engineers that gave us a proposal.
Okay, and who else gave us a proposal?
Beta and Woodard and Curran.
Okay, okay,
So on that front sheet, it shows you who gave us proposals for the headworks analysis
Yep.
that we put out to bid. I submitted to these 3 companies. Ty and Bond came in at $14,100 for the initial work. Beta was $27,140, and Woodard and Curran was $49,300. The Ty and Bond price is consistent with what Veolia submitted to you guys last year for the company that they were gonna have come in and do this same work. The scope of work that I submitted to them is on the second page of that first page handout. And I think Ty and Bond is familiar with the system, and in conversations with them, they understood kind of what we were looking for and what we're expecting them to do. And that they're gonna try and use a lot of the data that Veolia has been collecting over the last year and understand what's coming in and what's working well in the system, and identify what's working well, what isn't, and hopefully what changes can be made to work better.
On their quote,
Yeah, Ty and Bond?
yep,
Yes.
says optional work, what's process optimization study? And it's gonna cost an extra $3,100 for a final meeting?
So, a question on the original proposal was to provide any optional work they think we might need to be
Right.
done. So optional task 1 was the process optimization study, if you decide to have them do it for $3,400. And I
What
believe-
is it? Oh, I'm asking what that study is.
Optional tasks. Optionally, Ty and Bond can conduct a process optimization study that evaluates return-activated sludge rates, clarifier performance, MLSS levels, wet weather strategies, and monitoring control strategies with the added goal of optimizing operations. Optional task 2 is at the completion of the study, we would conduct a final meeting with the Charlton Water Sewer Commission to review the findings and conclusions related to the above tasks and update the letter report based on the comments received from the Charlton Water Sewer Commission during the meeting. We would provide up to 2 hard copies of the updated letter report and an electronic copy in PDF format. And each company came up with different optional tasks based on what they thought we should do. But for them to do the original items, scope of work that we requested, they are definitely the lowest bidder. And that's the price that I put on front from all 3, was their cost to do the initial scope of work, not the additional services.
No, I understand, I just, in your original submittal of what you were looking for. Reports was part of it, so I didn't understand, because there are no optional ones on the Beta, and the optional ones on Woodward and Kern was lab stuff up to whatever, $10,000 to $40,000. If you go to the final quote sheet, there are no optional tasks on Beta.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Woodward and Curran, was, testing for metals and supplemental sampling. But I would assume Headworks testing for metal would be part of it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think what they're what they're proposing to do is do a more comprehensive additional sampling over a period of time to get more relevant data than we currently have. I think they probably recognize that the historical data is somewhat suspect, because we had determined early on that the samples weren't proportioned. So some of that, and then I recently discovered that TKN issue, prior to last year, so I think they're looking to just do a bunch more sampling to make sure the data that they're using in their evaluation is current. You might recall, Alex, that they had originally given us, when I first got here, they had a proposal on the table for about 12 grand
Yep.
to do a similar Headworks analysis, but it was a paper study, which is similar to what I think Ty and Bond and the rest of them are gonna do, with no additional sampling.
I think if there's interest from the commission to move forward with this Headworks analysis based on these prices, we can have Ty and Bond come in and meet with us at our next meeting and talk to you guys and answer questions.
I think that's a good idea.
Again, this is just the information we got, and if you think that, you know what, it's not worth $14,000, then we can stop now. But if there is some curiosity and there's some interest in moving forward with this and talking and hearing from Ty and Bond, we can definitely have them come to the next meeting.
Seems with the options too, I've got a total of 20,600. I don't know if that's, if you've added that up. as
Yes,
well.
but that's if we choose to do the options.
Well, you know,
It would seem like those options are something that,
I'd say they're,
that we'd want to know.
right, that.
How do we
and
fix it?
Going back to Peter, your original sheet, reports was included.
No, yes, I'm the,
Prepare and report, number 6, prepare and report summarizing the findings of the above evaluation.
Okay.
And also, on Ty and Bonds, sorry, this is one time I'd like to have a paper one, going back and forth.
Ty and Bond's going to do that, Alex, on that number 6 that you just read.
No, number 6 on Peter's
Ty-
original sheet,
Okay.
it talks about reports.
but, correct, and that's in their proposed tasks.
That's in their proposed
I
task.
believe their option 2 report is based on the additional work of task 1. So they'll give us an initial letter summarizing the findings of the
Okay.
study. But if we want them to do task 1 and then report on it, we need them to do task 2 to create the report on it.
Yep.
John, did you look at all 3 of these?
I did. My recommendation, Peter, was to invite them in and have a workshop with each one to try to get a better grasp of what they were gonna propose to do. Because at the end of the day, we know what we're after,
Yep.
and we just wanna make sure that they're gonna deliver that at whatever price they did. You know, we don't wanna pay for stuff we don't need, or pay for something that we need and didn't get. But I know Ty and Bod's price was consistent with the company that we were gonna use, which was Wright Pierce. So, you know, I think that's worth bringing them in and talking to them.
You guys were gonna use Rapier.
Yeah, we couldn't do it on our own.
Yep.
And just to keep in mind, Commissioners, that Ty and Bond is the engineer who put our plant in place with the COMAC. They're the ones who made the suggestions. They're the one, in fact, they're out in the marketplace now tooting this COMAC, correct?
I don't know if tooting is the right word.
Well, again, promoting it as far as being, you know, the way to go.
I don't know if that's what they're doing or not. I don't wanna speak to it.
Yeah, again, each town is different, each need is different.
But they are the engineer that designed the facility and did the O&M manual update to include the quasi-activated sludge system.
Yeah.
So they have some really good, you know, first-hand knowledge of the plant, which I think puts them in an advantage, for
Right.
sure. They don't have to learn anything new. You know,
Right.
they're doing
So I think if there's interest in doing the headworks analysis, based on these proposals, we can invite Ty and Bond to come in, and you guys can ask them the questions, and
Well, if by having the headwork analysis complete, and we're concerned about this ammonia loading, and we have a pretty good idea where most of it's coming from, then this report would be a document that would help us as far as if we were gonna go forward and try to, tell someone, look, you now need to start pre-treating, and this is the reason why, this is what we found out. It's not, just a commission, it's based on this extensive report that we had done in analysis.
I would agree.
And again, this IPP is all, this headworks analysis is the first step in creating the IPP program, where once that's done and we start having other industrial users sample, and we start surcharging them based on those samplings, you're gonna make this money back in probably 1/4 of surcharges.
Yeah, it's, not that we're chasing the money, what we're chasing
I'm
is
just-
to make sure that what we're getting is that it's equitable, for us, and that
This-
we make sure those people who are doing an overloading need to compensate the rest of the users for it.
But
What do you
this is
think,
one of the
gentlemen?
first steps to create that IPP program, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Invite them in.
Okay.
Do you need a motion?
No, I don't think so. I'll invite
All of them,
all.
or just Ty and
No,
Bond?
just,
I'm happy with Ty and Bond.
I guess, I mean, it's still, even with the extra tasks, they're still the lowest price. I just get concerned with all this money we've been spending all night, right from the beginning of the meeting to
Yeah.
here, divided by 600 customers.
Yeah.
Like, how long, I know we put that 9 or 8%, 9% in increases for this billing season, but, is it gonna have to go up drastically in the future because of the money we spent just tonight even, never mind every other meeting, it seems like there's no end to the extra things. If we just spend how much money on the headworks, getting it repaired.
Yes.
And all this cost, it just keeps going on and on and on, and the burden's gonna be borne by 600 people, or 600 customers. I
Yes.
won't say people, but.
but again, what you're spending here is going to allow you to hopefully save money in the future,
I
so.
think it's a worthwhile expense, but it just seems tough to swallow, that's all.
I understood some, and again, look, business, private, public, sometimes you have to spend money to make money, so, and again, if we can use this to run more efficiently and not hopefully exceed some of our limits in the future, it's again, it's an investment in, again, that plant is what allows you to, I shouldn't say make your money, but to operate the way we do, and if we can do it better, or if we can update it and not have it fall behind, because it's, again, it's older technology, and it's been there for a while, so.
All right, well, Bonds, Ty and
Ty and
Bond's
Bond.
gonna come in, next,
If you, I mean, if you wanna have
meeting.
Beta come in, I'm sure that, actually, Beta's gonna be here at our next meeting to talk about their, give us an update on the water master plan. So if you'd wanna talk to them at the same time about their proposal, that's fine. I'm sure they'd be willing to answer any questions, just so you can see what the difference is and compare. And then you can make a decision from there.
to see if it's twice the value.
No, Beta with, again, is only, I guess, almost twice, unless you include the optional tasks,
No,
but
you're right, right.
those aren't consistent.
Right, but it's, and again, Paul, I hear exactly where you're coming from, as far as trying to keep the costs down, but I think that what has happened over the years here, for years and years and years, we've taken this I&I and we've done our own way of doing it, but we pushed off, spending in fact, we used to budget over $40,000 a year for it.
You still are.
Still do.
Yeah, and I don't remember spending much, if anything at all, over the years, so maybe some of this is catching up to us, so, and I think this is a reasonable way to get caught up here and have good information, if in fact we need to, make some changes, because we have to have backup. That's my thought.
And I think, again, if you take this information from the headworks analysis and you want to challenge something in the new NIPD's permit, you have some information about what's happening in the plant and why you're challenging it. So you're not just saying, well, we can't accept that new limit because we don't want to. You can kind of give them more information and hopefully have a little bit more standing with an argument to present.
Plus, I think on the flip side, it'll show you where your vulnerabilities are, where your future capital investment may need to be applied, even based on your current load.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
thanks for sticking around, guys.
Oh, is that it?
That's it.
Frank, go home now?
Frank, get out of here. Good night, John.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's a pleasure working with all of you,
Yeah.
So, I want to wish you all a happy new year as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Good evening.
All right. We haven't been introduced on John. Very nice.
What was Frank's name? John, before you leave, I will tell you is that Frank, who worked for Wood and Curran, he was the top
Frank
guy.
Cavallari, yeah.
Correct, yeah.
He was my boss.
He was the boss. I tell you, we had the issue of the humidity down at the plant, and the proposal was, it was $650,000 to fix it, to replace the dehumidifiers. And then we end up finally doing those big fans, which for about 80 grand.
And the RBC covers.
80 grand, and put the covers on it, and we ended up, I mean, it cost us maybe high 80s, low 90s to do it. But that was a $500,000 savings. But Frank ripped us up and down and saying, look, you guys can't do this. You know, we need to have a safe plant down there. And again, I'm glad that he did what he did to force us to make some changes down there. But just like the RBCs, I think that we gotta look at that and look at it, rather than spend the $500,000, maybe there's another option.
I agree. We definitely should, you gotta be creative.
Yeah,
You absolutely have to be
yeah.
creative.
So any room outside for more RBCs? I think I.
Well, there's a couple that already are outside.
There's already two outside.
There's already
Footprint's
two out
very
there.
small.
Yeah.
I
It's
wouldn't
been consumed
recommend
over the years.
any improvements until you see the new permit. Because
Yeah.
you may have to go with a completely different technology, depending on whatever limits they impose. So until that comes, I think this headworks analysis is gonna tell you kind of where you're stressed now, and where there might be an opportunity to improve certain areas, like maybe change the way we introduced air into those equalization tanks. Right now, it's a force system, meaning the bubbles are big and not very efficient.
Yep,
But maybe they might find that putting in a fine bubble system to make it more efficient gains you 20% more capacity. Well, that might be a better option than replacing the RBCs, and that's what we're good at, but, we need to see the data. We need to say, okay, where is the stress and how much more can the current plant handle? That's what the headwork should do for us.
All right,
We
John,
won't
thank
spend
you.
money foolishly.
well, that's right, we want to keep it tight. Okay, the copy machine.
Yes. The lease on the current copy machine expires in March of 2018. So I called a few companies and got some proposals for you guys to consider. You currently lease the machine
Yep,
at $141 a month. So I had the proposals. There's a spreadsheet on the next page that shows you 3 copy machines. There's offers, there's price proposals for black and white and color to lease and to purchase. And then there's also a service and supplies agreement that will cover any repairs that need to be done to the machine and toner for, you'll see it per sheet basis. So, if you look at the cost to lease, for a 3-year lease, if you do it times 36, it pretty much covers the cost of the machine. So I'm not sure if the commission would want to entertain purchasing instead of leasing. And then I would definitely recommend the service and supplies agreement. If you lease, the service and supplies agreement is for the 3 years of the lease. If you purchase, that service and supplies agreement is for 5 years. The Toshiba and Ricoh are both under the state bid list, so we can purchase either one of those,
What do you have right now, color or black and white?
black and white.
You can't do any color?
No,
How many sheets have you run through it?
126,000 in 5 years.
Which is short. That's not many.
No. But it's actually cheaper to get a color, lease a color,
Yes,
but the Toshiba color is a little more money, but it's a lot cheaper
yes.
per page.
You do not have to get the service and supplies agreement, but I would definitely recommend it,
Yep.
especially if we're gonna go with color. Color would definitely be beneficial when printing certain things. Try and limit the use of that, except for when it's when it's only necessary. I believe the Ricoh copier we have now that we're buying toner for, it's $130 per toner, and it does about 30,000 sheets, which is about 0.004 cents per sheet. So you're looking with the service and sales agreement from Toshiba, it's only a 0.2 of a cent increase over what it would cost us to buy the toner ourselves, and it includes all service for that machine over the 5 years that we own it. And again, not to try and get you guys to spend money frivolously, but to purchase the machine for less than what it's gonna cost you to pay the lease payment over 3 years just makes sense to me. It's still gonna have a residual value of, they say 15% at the end of the 5 years or 3 years, so you can trade that in after.
You're assuming no repairs?
The repairs are covered in that service and supplies agreement.
Oh,
They repair, if you agree to do that, they charge you based on how many copies you make, and you go ahead and just, any repairs, they come and do them, it's all covered. We currently don't have that with our current machine.
no repairs for 3 years or 5 years or?
If we purchase,
year?
no,
If we purchase.
if we purchase, that service and sales agreement is good for 5 years, fixed at those prices per sheet. So depending how many copies we do, your savings on the cost per sheet would probably just about equal out the difference in price between the Toshiba and the Ricoh. So it's kinda,
Has anyone in our office had any experience with in comparison experience between Ricoh, Hewlett and Packard and Toshiba? So they can say, well, never mind, this is just figures.
Correct.
Somebody has actually run a machine and said, this machine has an advantage over the other one because it can do such
No.
and such.
They all pretty much do the same thing. They all pretty much have the same standard ability to sort, to copy, to scan, to fax. The paper trays are all laid out and configured the same way. We didn't add on any extras, they call it finishing, where you can get it to automatically staple or hole punch or or fold. We didn't get any of that stuff.
We don't need it.
I know.
Right.
So this is just the basic machine. We currently have a Ricoh black and white. From what I've heard, the service wasn't tremendous in the past, but we also didn't have a service agreement, so we didn't want to call and have them come out to charge us a service call. I know I tried to get my computer to hook up to the system to be able to scan to it. I called them, and when I talked to the guy on the phone, he said, you don't have a service agreement. I'll give you a couple minutes and try and walk you through it. And it didn't work, and I didn't bother calling back, so.
Seems strange that Ricoh Color is less expensive than the black and white.
The
but not
black,
So with the other two.
the black and white comes with a 3-year service agreement. That's, no toner, that's why
That's why the difference.
yeah, for the Ricoh black and white, that 3-year service is included. I don't know why they did that one separately. Toshiba, he got back to me today with a new estimate. The black and white price came down to 0.005. And the color is still 0.04 cents, so,
So, which is, just 4 cents a copy,
yes,
the column.
correct. No matter what the percentage saturation is, or, I think he said an 11 by 17 would cost the same amount as an 8.5 by 11 for color. So if we're looking to print, I mean, color will be beneficial if we need to print some maps or something that show, the different, if we were able to, like our beta water model map, if we want to print an 11 by 17 that has the the legend with different colors for different line sizes. We'll be able to print that and have that for informational purposes for you guys and be able to present that information. Will it be a little bit clearer?
My question is where's the local Rico dealer?
They have travel guys. The salesman came from Rhode Island, but he lives in Spencer. They're all kind of on the road,
They're on the road.
yes. The toner will get delivered to us. It's all Wi-Fi, so they'll know.
Yeah.
You know, all the printers now know how much toner's left, and it'll let us know when we need to reorder, and they'll send one,
Peter, when's that contract expire?
March.
March.
And we're currently paying $141 a month for the black and white one we have with no
So
service agreement.
Come April, we either have to, buy the one that we have for $1,000 or step up and
Yes.
make a new agreement. I'd like to have the machine that we currently have evaluated. You know, it's gonna cost $120, because, the alternative would be to consider is if the evaluation comes back and saying, look, these machines are good for 700, 800,000 copies before you start having problems with the, you know, with the roller or whatever the thing is in there. You know, that means that we've only used, probably 25% of the life of the machine. And in fact, if the evaluation comes in and says, look, the machine's in fine shape, you should, based on your usage, you should get at least another 2 or 3 years out of this without a problem. That's what I'd like to hear, as far as, that's me, as far as giving us some evaluation, instead of spending almost $150 a month. So that's
You
what,
wouldn't consider
$1,800 a
purchasing it?
month.
You wouldn't consider purchasing?
No, purchasing the one that we've been renting. for the
Purchase a
last
new
2
one,
years.
though?
No,
No, you'd rather lease it?
no, I'd rather buy the one that we have
Okay.
for $1,000. Because if we're gonna lease, you're gonna spend $1,800.
No, Peter wants to buy one.
Okay, well, then you're gonna spend somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000.
Yeah, but to lease one over, would you say 5 years? It's about
Lease is
$9,000.
for 3 years,
Oh, 3 years, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
and it covers the cost of the machine. You actually pay more than what the machine is worth if you were to buy it.
Right,
And we're sales tax exempt, so sales tax is not a consideration.
If you were to buy that machine and something goes wrong, you're gonna have to incur that cost to fix
No,
it.
exactly. Well, that's why I said incur the fee to have a hopefully reliable serviceman to come out and evaluate the machine. That's all I'm saying. I think it's, you know, a month's rental to find that out. I think it's worth it.
But then if you take that $1,000 off of the cost of a new machine, you're getting a new machine for less, for $3,700 instead of, or if you go with the Rico, you're getting it for $3,000 instead of $4,000.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, but you gotta pull $3,000 out of your pocket versus the one that you're gonna buy for $1,000. And as far as monthly rentals, if it was $150, cause what are we paying right now, $143?
correct. But if you buy it, that rental fee, there is no
Goes
rental
away,
fee.
no, right, exactly. That's
Or
the
either
point.
one of these. There's no rental fee if you purchase the
Correct,
machine.
correct, it's just we gotta come up with the money. Yeah, new car, used car, what do you wanna do? The good thing is, we already know the used car, as far as, you know, the limited use, and I mean, that's, I don't know much about copies, but that's not many copies on one of these commercial jobs. I mean, go to the end of the hall down here and see how many copies they have when you got 4 or 5 different, 6 departments using it. I don't know. Whatever you wanna do.
well, if we spend $1,000 to buy the one we've already got and it lasts for 7 months, we've probably, you know, broke even with this $1,000 at $140 a month. And any use beyond that is savings to us.
On the weeks that you've been there, how's that machine worked?
No issues.
No issues? Yeah.
You're gonna take that from him?
Walked
I'll
right
take
into
what?
it, yeah,
That backhanded comment he just gave you?
The weeks I've been here?
yeah.
The weeks that you've been here.
Why is that a backhanded comment?
I think he's implying you're not here as much as you're supposed to be here.
Well, when it's weeks, I mean, whether it's 52 weeks or whether it's 3 months. You guys are picking on me now.
I didn't get
Be
it.
No,
careful,
not
I'll
at
call
all.
you Frank.
No. I haven't had-
Again, those are my
Again, I haven't been
thoughts.
able, I have to scan to her computer because mine won't connect to it, but that's just,
So why can't IT from the town support that?
no.
Why?
I don't know. He said to call Rico. I asked.
All right, so when the RICO guy comes, you're gonna be, we're paying him for his hour, we should be able to get all this information.
Okay.
That's just, I'm only one here. What do you guys wanna do? You wanna buy a new car, or you wanna stick with the used one that we know really well?
Myself, I would rent the HP Color. It's less money than we're paying
Yeah.
now to Rico for
And
the,
it's color.
for the black and white, and it's color, and we don't have to concern ourselves with downtime or repairs or something like that. I mean, they're gonna, in the lease, they take care of that. And we've been happy with the lease so far. That's my personal choice at the moment.
The Rico color?
No, HP, 135.30 a month.
But the Rico color's less.
Yes, it is. I just,
I was actually looking at Toshiba because of
I'm
the
kind of
price
fond
per
of HP,
page.
that's all.
Oh, but again, you look at in order for you to get your service and sales, you're gonna be paying 0.4 of a cent more per black and white copy and also a penny more for color, but,
Well, you just got this tonight, I haven't had a
Yeah.
chance to do all the math on it.
What'd you say, it's 133,000? Roughly?
yes, less than 130, 127,
Yeah, that's what
128.
I thought, I wrote 126.
126?
All right, so, Alex, which one do you like? The Toshiba Color?
Yeah,
Okay, so, and so as far as service and supplies, it's, we have a cost per copy, plus we have a cost per copy for the agreement, as well as paying the rent or paying the dollar amount.
well, it's a little more if you bought it outright.
145 times 36? 145 times 36 is 5220. That's why.
No, I'm saying it's a little more if you were to buy it outright in comparison to the other two color
Oh.
ones.
Okay,
But the price per sheet
yes.
is considerably cheaper. Us-
Only if you do the service and sales agreement.
Right now, we don't have a service agreement, correct?
Correct. Otherwise, it might be a good idea to keep the one we have, but we do not have a service and sales agreement.
My math didn't come out right, but if, just take the Rico Color,
Yes,
that's gonna cost 6.2 cents a copy, and plus you
For
gotta
color.
add 8/10 of a cent onto that for service and supplies. So
No.
that's,
no, so the service and supplies agreement charges you 0.0082 cents for black and white
okay,
and
Thank you.
6.2
Okay.
cents for color.
for color.
So they charge you a different cost because the color toner is more expensive.
Right.
And that cost includes all toner, it includes everything but paper. All we do is put paper in the tray and they cover the machine for everything else.
And being as we don't have anything to compare it to because we're black and white, it's hard to tell what the ratio of color to black and white is to really get a true cost analysis on that, Rob.
Oh, you're right, and because right now, we're getting, what, 30,000 copies out of a toner? Did I hear you say that?
That's what my understanding is on the black and white toner, yes.
And what's the total for that machine? 70, 80 bucks?
130.
130?
The current machine we have?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that works out to be like .0043 cents per
Right,
sheet.
Right. I'm just saying, over a 3-year period, as far as the color copies, according to the agreement, of .0682 times 126,000, it's 8,500 bucks.
No.
I don't know.
That's it, no, that's if you do them all color.
Okay, well.
We're not
yeah,
gonna do them all color.
That's what I'm saying, it's hard to get a
Do,
real.
so do 100,000 times .0082.
Okay,
And so say we do 100,000 black and white and 25,000 color over
okay.
the next 5 years.
5 years.
3
Yeah,
years.
But don't think,
If you purchase, I'd say,
Oh, okay.
if you purchase, the service and sales agreement
Yep.
is valid for 5 years.
Okay,
So you're locked in at these prices. So that's why the Toshiba, their extra price, you make up for it with your cost per print.
all right, so if over 5 years, we're gonna do about 200,000 copies.
No.
'Cause- No, 3 years, we did 126,000.
No, the previous lease was 5 years. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's
The-
5
The new
years.
ones are 3. The previous lease was 5.
So we've had that machine for 5 years?
Yes.
Boy, we don't use it much. Yeah,
what's black and white? Who wants to use black and white?
that's right, so that's why you're gonna end up using all that color. I
No.
don't know, hey, look,
It's 2,100 pages a month.
Yeah.
So if you do 100,000 colors, 100,000 copies, black and white, over the next 5 years, at .006 cents, that's $600 for the entire 5 years. So that's $125 a year
all right,
that
now-
you'd get charged.
okay, so now do 26,000 copies in color times .0682.
No,
Yeah,
what, you're adding an 8 somewhere. 26,000 times
Zero.
.04 is $1,000, is $1,040 for the 5 years for
Okay.
color.
all right, so 1,040 plus the 600, that's 1,600 bucks.
Yeah, but that includes all toner.
That's an extra, all toner,
You're not paying for any toner. Right now, we're paying for toner,
which is 130 for every 30,000,
which is .0043.
yeah.
They've already done it for you, Rob.
So,
I don't know.
and your service is included. If anything breaks on that machine, it's covered.
Maybe that's why I own old vehicles, I don't know, I'm not, you know,
I'd make a motion for you, Pete, but I don't think it's gonna go anywhere with these two.
Do you want me to spend the money to get the current machine evaluated?
I thought that was the best deal. Toshiba Color, to buy it and get the service plan with it for 5 years. Because it's the cheapest per page, and if that includes the toner, and you're buying it outright, you're done with it. And like Peter said, you're not paying for any service calls, it's all covered under that. And that's 5 years? Or 3 years? 3 years?
No, the service and supplies agreement is for 5 years.
5 years, okay.
So that price is locked in. It's .006 cents for black and white and 4 cents for color. So the more we use it, the more we pay. If we don't use it, we don't pay as much, and that machine is covered no matter what happens to it.
So after the 5 years, the machine's still yours, now you gotta, now you gotta pay for your own toner
in maintenance.
and maintenance, but you've gotten 5 years out of it.
Or you trade it in towards a new one. As technology changes, if you wanna upgrade it and see what's available.
And Peter doesn't have to ask for
And
anybody
that's-
else's help to print something from his computer.
4,700 bucks. Plus,
Plus nothing.
no, it's service
Oh.
and supplies.
But you're already paying, you're still paying the print. There's still a cost associated per print you do. Right now, because you're paying for toner.
Yep. Yep. I don't know. We're paying about, what, 400% more for color than we are for black and white. But, hey, I don't think, whatever you wanna do.
I make a motion that we get the Toshiba color and purchase it with the service and supplies agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, good motion in a second, and, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No. Motion passes.
There you go, Peter.
Thanks.
All right, what do we do with the old machine?
They all should work fine.
Yeah, take it back.
We're gonna
They
stay
come
till
get it.
2 o'clock tomorrow.
Maybe it has more value than we think.
$5,000 expense.
What do you mean, no? It's got low mileage, wicked low mileage.
So do you want me to, it's
I don't know.
$1,000 to purchase it. That's what they came back
Maybe you'll
with
get
before.
calls tomorrow at the treatment plant.
You want
Hey,
me
you know
to
that copy
put it
you
on
got there?
Craigslist, put it on
With no- with-
Craigslist?
with almost no copies on it? Okay, guys, moving along. What's this next sheet? A lot of paper here, huh, Paul?
Oh, don't start that. Look, think how much more I can do
Oh,
with the
yeah,
new copy
I can't wait
machine.
for it. It'll be color. It'll be color. Then I'll have to,
Think about how much more I can do with that new copy machine.
yeah, just,
Okay.
you could use bigger font here, so that.
I'll work on that.
Right. Okay,
We can, the elderly abatement process, I think we can pass over until Mrs. Vaughn is here. She has to put it on. The Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. Yes.
what is this?
This is something that we got a grant for to create. It's a municipal vulnerability program. It has to do with, and this is where it's gonna get interesting, global warming. But how it applies to us is it has us create a hazard mitigation plan based on the municipal vulnerability, based on climate change and changing climate patterns. So, maybe we should talk about this changing climate patterns and how it directly affects us is it talks about stormwater, and it talks about I&I, and it talks about some of our infrastructure being influenced by the changing climate and the water table changes and more flooding or less flooding. So the town received a grant to kind of create this program for us, and there's a lady from,
Fussin' O'Neill?
yes, she's on the second page. That's who the town hired to help us get through this process as part of the grant. So, again, it's grant money to create this MVP
So where's the
program.
money? Show me the money. How much is it?
It doesn't cost us, there's no money associated
Well,
with
if it's
this.
costing us time, if she's gotta come down, you gotta talk to her and spend time.
You're
with her,
gonna, yes,
Okay,
cost,
that's a
it's
cost.
time. So I went to one meeting for 3 hours, 2 hours.
Yeah, one of those weeks he wasn't here to use the coffee.
So, what they're doing is they're creating a meeting to get some public input to talk about hazard mitigation, talk about the climate change, and create this municipal vulnerability program. And they're asking for a couple commissioners to take place in it to answer questions about our system. And again, once we get designated as part of this MVP program, they're gonna release grants that are eligible only to towns that are MVP eligible. And I think with the I&I information stuff that we're doing, and that being a component of what these grants are gonna be awarded for, between getting all of our ducks in a row, we may be able to hopefully have a strong chance in getting grant money to do some of the I&I improvements that we identify moving forward.
Peter, state or federal?
This, I believe, is state. So they set up the meeting for Saturday, April 7th. It's
I can do it.
Roundtable discussions, it's gonna be encompassing the entire town. And again, they're just looking for members of the board to participate, so if you're,
Alex, you
that'd be
volunteer
great.
for that?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay. How about you, Paul?
I volunteer to stay home.
Okay. All right, we got Alex so far.
Okay.
Maybe,
I'll mention it to the other
we'll
two,
check the other two with Gabe and, Ms. Vaughn.
so, That's kind of the rundown on that. And again, it is what it is, and the initial focus is climate change, but it also goes down that, again, hazard mitigation throughout the town based on the climate change that's affecting floodwaters and everything else, so.
Icebergs melting down.
No, but it's part of the process that the grant has us doing, so thank you for volunteering.
You got this in
I'll
here
see you there.
twice.
I'll see you there.
You got this in here twice, so you're gonna be punished now.
Am I?
This is asking for another vacation?
Oh, we jumped ahead.
We jumped ahead.
Earlier, we jumped ahead, 'cause we
Yeah,
had time to kill waiting for Norman.
Okay. Some discussion and research done regarding the water privilege fee.
Yep.
All right, so what's been done, and have you found anything out, Peter?
Well, I
or-
found that motion that I forwarded to you guys a while ago,
Yeah.
based on that October meeting. And,
Okay.
I think we should have a discussion based on, again, especially now what's happening with the betterments being rescinded, what was decided with the privilege fee based on betterments, and seeing kind of not how Southbridge does theirs, but they don't charge privilege fees, they just charge a connection fee. And maybe that's something that we should consider, because there's no betterment to base the privilege fee off of at this time. So maybe we look at how they do it and why they do it, and see if that's something you want to think about, or maybe change the privilege fee vote that was taking place, so it's not depending on betterments or that procedure, it is what it is. So I think that would be a good thing to have on an off night, if you guys are available, and we can just, again, off camera, it will be an open meeting, but we can sit down and discuss it, and see where it goes.
But as it stands right now, what's in place is a privilege fee,
Yes,
according to our vote.
correct.
Okay.
That has not been enforced or charged, to my knowledge, at this time.
It was overlooked. Yep. So how soon do you want to have that?
Our next official meeting is February 12th, so that gives us 2 Mondays before that. If you want to choose, if you guys are available one of those, we can just have it on an off Monday.
Okay. Anyone any ideas on that, or?
Don't look at me like that, I have no idea.
Okay, all right.
So you're looking
So
at
just set the meeting up and you'll be here.
I don't have a preference over one Monday or the other.
Okay.
It's January 9th or February 5th. Or, I mean, we do it any other night of the week, if you guys if you're available or have a different preference, but
January 9th?
January
January
29th
29th, okay. so look
and
at it.
February 5th.
Okay.
Listen, Frank, don't get
Oh,
fussy.
all right. Okay, Billy, let's, I don't have a problem with the 29th, at least I don't think I do, at this time,
Is that next Monday?
yeah,
The 29th?
yeah. Paul,
That's fine.
it's fine, just send me a pigeon.
All right.
All right, what's this next thing here, Peter, you got from Mr. Tripp?
Yes, I'm just looking for authorization to sign this request from Charlie Tripp from Kleinfelder for the application for permit to access a state highway from Mass DOT as part of the pump station project.
Okay, excuse me.
I didn't want to sign it without anybody's
Yeah, in
approval.
fact, I know at one of our meetings, we talked about the utility pole being across the street, because we talked about doing underground.
Yeah, but I thought Chris said something about, didn't Chris?
Alex, I went by there the other day, the telephone poles are on the same side of the street as the pump station. So I'd seen Chris, I don't know, Thursday or Friday, and I reminded him, just take a look at that. I says, we can do underground electricity to that building now.
I
So
asked-
there's an existing pole on property?
Yes.
The lines are all on that side of the street?
I asked them that question and they said no, and I'll forward you his response if I didn't already.
'Cause
I followed up, you guys had 3 questions, or 2 questions. One was about going underground. The second was about doing a propane heater instead of electric.
Yep.
And there was one other one, and I sent him those. He said they can't do the underground electric because there's not enough room on the site to do the transformer pad
Yeah.
or whatever, so. And then he said about the electric heat, the propane tank is sized just big enough to cover the generator so that it has enough runtime. It can't go bigger because of the,
Yeah. Is the generator inside the building?
I'm not sure. I don't believe so.
No, generator's gonna be outside. Why would it be-
Some, again, as long as it's got the exhaust going out, I know we've got a project to where the generator's in the building.
I don't think that
And
building's
the
big
exhaust
enough.
goes
That
up.
building's not big
It's
enough.
not, these skid mount units,
Okay, I hear you, yeah.
So he said there's not enough room, there's not enough size in the propane tank to allow for the propane heaters on the inside of the building. Oh, and then I asked him about the air conditioning you guys mentioned inside the building, and if you choose to, they can add that after. And that would be
I just
allowed
had concerns in the VFDs and the MCC
Yeah.
room,
with the humidity.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And he said
Exactly.
he said that could be added. I'll find that email and make sure I forward it to you
Because
guys.
on the plan here, it says, proposed utility pole, C note 3.
Yep.
So they would put the transformers on the utility pole?
Yeah, they're gonna hang the pots up on the pole.
So I did ask those questions. This application has nothing to do with the design,
Yeah, I hear you.
right? This application just has to do
Yeah.
with signing to have access,
Yep,
so,
there's no need for a temporary construction easement
for,
for anything on that property?
we have it, you have one, that's why I'm confused.
That's what I'm asking, we've already gotten one?
From the other landowner? Or-
For
Yes.
anything that is during construction that may go off
Yes.
the land we bought?
Yes, you have that.
Okay,
I believe that was negotiated in as part of the sale, that you have that temporary construction
okay.
easement.
I couldn't remember if we got that or not.
Yep.
How big's this building? 1,000 square feet?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, yeah. How often are we gonna be without lights? 10 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours?
I don't follow.
Not enough propane in the tank to.
You have to power the pumps, Rob.
No, I understand that. Then you're gonna use the generator.
Mm-hmm.
And the generator's gonna run on what?
They must have to
Oil or
have, I don't know if
propane?
it's 24 hours, it's propane.
So it's gonna run on propane, the
Yeah.
generator.
Can't run on oil, it's too close to the water.
That's what, so it's gonna run on propane.
Right. But they've already maximized the size of the propane tank that they can get for that piece of land.
That's the outside tank, right? But I mean, that building, all you would need is a 125-gallon bottle to
For
heat
what?
it. Again, to heat it, instead of doing electric.
So you wanna do a second propane tank?
Yeah, why not? Again, because of the,
How much heat do you think need?
not much, but it's better than electric.
The heat from the motors
Right,
and the MCCs.
right, I agree.
Is enough. And the electric heat is only gonna come on when it gets extremely, extremely cold.
Okay, leave it alone. Because I agree with you, it requires little or no heat.
So, I just.
You're not gonna freeze moving water.
No,
And for the amount of use you might get, maybe electric's more reliable than the propane. It might
well,
be-
when the
it might-
lights go out, you're gonna have a
it'll-
generator making electricity.
Right.
Yeah.
And that'll be running the electric heat also,
Right,
so
yep.
it's,
No, fine.
Can I get a motion authorizing me to sign the application?
for the pump station.
Yeah, the application to Mass DOT.
Make a motion that Peter can be the sole signature on the, MassDOT pump station application.
Second that?
Okay. Any discussion on that, or any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this is just a driveway permit? Yep,
pretty much.
okay. go, it's getting late.
Yep. We're pretty much done. There's no old business. I just have my superintendent's report. Just kind of to hit on it quick, I started working on the budget with, getting some information from Steve and putting that together. I met with Robin last week to go over it. I'm gonna meet with Donna, the new finance director, this week hopefully, or next week, depending on her availability. To talk about what I'm proposing, and then I'll try and have it ready to submit to the board and see if you guys have any changes. One of the components is the 5-year capital plan. And I don't know if you guys have any priorities in that for either water or sewer. I know water's kind of difficult right now, but as far as sewer goes, I think maybe after that headworks analysis is done or getting that new permit, maybe we can create a 5-year capital plan that reflects what actually needs to be done at the plant and go from there. And then try and take, I was talking to Donna about trying to take some of our retained earnings each year and put them into a special account so that we have a set account with a set dollar amount that we can start saving up for capital improvements, the larger capital improvements that sooner or later we're gonna have to start doing to the plant. So, I just wanna finalize a few things with her and get that done and then present that to you guys. As far as the operating budget goes, there's no major changes from last year to this year. There's a few line items I wanna tweak a little bit differently so it's easier for me to track different things. But that's about it. Unfortunately, come springtime, we're probably gonna have to do a transfer to the health insurance line item, because both myself and Sue are taking town health insurance, and previously it was just Steve. So, we'll just have to make that adjustment come springtime so that there's enough in there for the remainder of this year. Other than that, it should be pretty cut and dry. Like I said, part of the process, this year, in your operating budget, you have the capital line item with about $385,000 in it, which I don't see you guys authorizing any of that type of use at this time. So I recommend that we don't fund that line item to that level. I'd recommend that we take like I said, take retained earnings and set up a specific account, savings account that we can contribute to every year, know the set amount and what we can save for and use it for in the future. I think keeping our O&M account pretty much where it is, and maybe keeping $100,000 in the capital outlay account for any surprises, any expensive surprises that may happen, that we can cover that without having to go to town meeting to get funding, I think would be adequate. And again, it's not saying that we have to spend it because it's there, it's just there as a safety measure so that we have funding to do repairs, because unfortunately, if something big happens, it's not a $10,000 or $15,000 fix, it's $60,000, $70,000. But, once I have that ironed out, I'll present it and get your thoughts, but if there's a conceptual, if you guys don't like that conceptual idea, let me know and I'll stop going down that path.
I guess my question would be, Peter, is, or at least my comment would be, is if you set up the account, if we don't have it, if we haven't budgeted for the expense, then how do we spend it during the year without going back to town meeting?
You have to go to town meeting.
Okay, so what's the difference whether it's in there or whether it's part of our retained earnings?
Because your retained earnings just kind of disappear. You don't know where they are, you don't know what they are, and you don't know what they're gonna be next year. And that, they're just, it's kind of like a mythical number that you get at the end of the year that once you hear it, it goes away. And hopefully it grows, but if you overspend in your line item, it's gonna come out of retained earnings.
Oh, exactly, and we've always, at least I've always looked at the retained earnings as, again, that's your savings.
Yeah. I don't think your retained earnings is large enough to be the savings account you need for what is happening at the plant. And I think that's the important, again, this is discussion when you talk about rates and all that stuff. I think there are gonna need to be improvements done that we need to start saving for and have $1 million in an account ready to do that improvement, so when it happens, you don't have to go to town meeting and borrow money or ask to do betterments across all your 600 customers to do an upgrade to the plant.
couple things is, I would certainly like to see our retained earnings account be corrected by the amount of monies that was taken out of our operating budget last year to pay Mr. Pecos, when in fact it was part of the ExxonMobil dollars that was supposed to come back to us, because right now, as far as the counting of our account of water and sewer, we have an account there that we have retained earnings. Then we have this other account, which is, what's the terminology for that, with the,
Receipts reserved for appropriation.
okay, receipts reserved. In other words, receipts meaning monies that came from ExxonMobil that's in reserve to be spent. If we turn the clock back, is our retained earnings for the last 7, 8, 9 years, they oscillate somewhere, they used to oscillate somewhere between 900,000 and 1,000,001.
What are you talking about, sewer now?
Oh, I'm sorry, right.
Those other things are water.
Okay.
They're separate budgets.
Separate budgets, but and because you were talking about the budget, total budget, as far as what you're preparing right now.
Correct, but I guess the retained earnings in that reserve, that capital is for sewer only. For
Yeah.
water, you have a capital reserve fund with a 1.5 million sitting in it already,
And that money came from where?
ExxonMobil.
Yeah, but ExxonMobil had not designated 1.5. They designated the residual or the remainder of once all things were paid off.
All I know is there's an account, again, there's a reserve fund account with the money for the superintendent's salary.
Yeah,
There's another reserve fund account with $1.5 million to do capital improvements to the water system.
Yeah.
So we have that head start. And then there's another reserve fund with, I believe, $50,000 in it.
maybe, and I will either send it to you, but I will send you the direction of what our agreement was.
Okay.
Where that was supposed to come from. But I think it's important that the money that's sitting in the water account as far as reserved monies, that money was taken out of, I believe it was taken out of the water sewer account in order to cover the expense of Mr. Pecos, which was close to $79,000. That money needs to come from the water account and get put back into the sewer account. If it was.
So
if
you
in
think Kevin Pecos was paid from sewer,
Yes,
not from water?
not from water. We didn't have any money in water. We didn't have any income.
You've been getting retained earnings, you have retained earnings, you had $149,000 in retained earnings for water.
But those retained earnings that must have came from the 3 payments from Southbridge.
Not all of it.
I
But
would-
I'll check, I'll make sure that that the sewer money did not pay for Kevin Pecos.
Well, no, it already did, I'm pretty sure it already did pay for it. Do you remember that, Paul? What do you remember? It came out of water
It
and
was
sewer?
supposed to happen, I don't know where he actually got it from, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that.
Because when you talk, and again, with retained earnings, for water and sewer, because when, I think it was, what's his name, Mr. Gordon, the fellow who gave us that report? He calculated our retained earnings or projected our retained earnings for this coming year, it'd be
Oh, for the
122.
rate study?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, I think that, besides him not including 4 quarters, was only 3, but again, he was making the point, and I hear what he's saying, he was going by what was turned into the state, and those numbers were turned into the state, as far as income for
Correct, so
sewer.
if he missed a quarter, that will show up in next year's retained earnings, is that what he's saying?
Well, yeah, but also what was missed, the fact is that we took money out of the sewer side and paid Mr. Pecos.
I'll
with that. So
make sure.
that needs to get back. Again, it's in the same pair of pants, it needs to go from one pocket to the other, but still, it needs to
Yeah.
be properly,
I thought that was funded from the water budget, I didn't realize that. I'll make sure of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're working on that, capital plan. Last week, I met with Beta and McClure to get a status update on the water master plan. Beta had some questions that Chris was able to answer and give them some more information. After that meeting, I went with Beta to meet with the Army Corps of Engineers again to talk about doing a public water supply well in the Buffinville area. Second meeting we've had, we still haven't heard no. The well that we were thinking about possibly developing is too close to the pipeline that crosses Buffinville. So there's actually a gas or petroleum pipeline that crosses Buffinville at this time. So we've identified another piece of property privately owned, not by the Army Corps of Engineers, that abuts it and is in the same area. I've contacted the landowner, and he's willing to sit down and talk about allowing us access to get on there and possibly drill some wells.
Is it not in the floodplain?
It is not in the floodplain. Actually, he has a couple spots on the property where the elevation goes up and where we can get to, and it's actually above floodplain level, which would be definitely beneficial. And the property we're looking at already has easement or some type of restriction on it from the Army Corps. So it's still out there. We're still kind of moving forward with it. I did mention some of that to the DEP, and I think and we're talking to Beta, try and identify where we're gonna maybe do some drilling for those wells with the landowner, if they're okay with it. Have another joint meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers and DEP at the same time, so we're all in the same room. Make sure they don't see any red flags, and then go ahead and try and get some drilling done or some exploration done before the end of this fiscal year.
Now, if it's private land, why would we need to bring Army Corps of Engineering?
Because we still have to directional drill under the pond to get to the other side. So we still needed some type of access agreement, and some of our 400-foot radius would be on their property. So I think it's just good to keep them in the loop and keep them informed. We would not need their consent to necessarily get on that property and do any exploration, but I think rather than spending the money and then going to them after and saying, hey, we found this, let us cross, keep them
Right.
involved from moving forward. That's all.
Getting back to the original site to where I think it was, what, 270 gallons a minute?
Yes.
Okay, that well.
270,000 gallons a day.
Okay, and,
That water, the water quality was near the limit for aluminum and high in iron and manganese. So it's hard to know what we would have to do for a treatment process. The other side of the lake where the second well was that we wanted to develop, but is in the zone 1, the pipeline is in the zone 1,
excuse me, Peter, east and west,
we're going east on the other side, just south of the causeway.
so the east side,
Yep,
okay,
just south of the dam itself.
right, yeah.
That well had good quality, only had to be treated for corrosion control. So I think Ty and Bond drilled that well, and that one was 350,000 gallons per day. The problem was, they didn't realize that petroleum pipeline was there till after, and that's why they moved across the lake to the other well that was in the floodplain and not as good.
The one that's next
So-
to the pipeline, if I may, because the concern is if there's ever a disaster with the pipeline, it's gonna take out the well.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, but if we had a redundant supply,
DEP will not allow anything within that 400-foot radius, especially knowing that there's a petroleum pipeline within that 400-foot radius is a no-go.
that nothing's happened to in the last 40 years.
So it's time. I wouldn't risk spending that kind of money to develop a well there with that in there.
Well, if we had a 300-gallon well, we wouldn't need the supply from Southbridge.
Correct, but
Right.
where we're looking at moving is probably 200 feet away from where that high-yield well
Okay.
is.
Okay.
We're not going that far away. We're
Okay.
still in this, hopefully, we're still in
Yep.
the same pocket, and we can get the same results. And higher elevation, definitely out of floodplain,
And the pipeline is out of the 400-foot,
yes.
but it's definitely in zone 2.
No,
Yeah, zone 2,
oh, yes, it would be in zone 2.
yeah.
So that's where we are with the Army Corps, still kind of kicking that can forward. Robin and I also met with the Oxford Town Manager and members of Aquarion to discuss what's needed to get water for the East Charlton Waterline Extension, so that's getting pushed forward. Like I said, things are moving forward, still more questions than answers at this time, but, hopefully it's not an issue. We did, try to figure out what our initial water supply requirement would be, and based on existing structures and Title V numbers, it came out to about 12,500 gallons per day to supply all of the existing structures on Route 20 from the town line to Richardson's Corner Road,
12,000 gallons a day?
Title V.
Wow.
So Aquarion said Title V is excessive, and they use a 60%
Yeah.
kind of figure of Title V, so they're figuring 7,500 gallons per day. What Robin asked is, in the agreement we come up with, is that it's a straight 20,000 gallons per day, that max that we can take from them, and that if more people want to connect and we're able to kind of change the valves and send water different ways, or new users come to hook up, because part of the grant is economic development, that we can, that we're not stuck at 7,000 gallons at this time, and they seemed amenable to that, so. That's moving forward. And then Robin and I also met with Muriel Stone from DEP, and also probably 4 other members of DEP from different offices, to give them a heads up of where we are with the Casella Waterline Extension, the Route 169 pump station, the school loop, the East Charlton extension, and the Buffinville stuff. So we gave them a rundown, and I think they appreciated the information, and we're kind of trying to keep everyone on the same page so that no big surprises come up once these projects start. So that's where we're at with all that stuff.
I would ask that if you're gonna be doing these meetings, either with the Army Corps or DEP, that you invite at least 1 or 2 commissioners to be present.
What I was hoping to do is just get the groundwork done, and once we get to that, and if there's interest from the board members to get involved at this time, then that's fine. Again, if there's more than 2 there, it
Oh, no, I
constitutes a
understand.
quorum, but,
Yep, yep.
and then, I don't know if the board wants to vote on who those 1 or 2 commissioners might be, so that I'm not trying to pick 2 random people for each different meeting, so.
I think it would be based on availability, Peter, so that's all.
Okay. And again, I'm not opposed to having you guys there, I was just trying to,
No,
again,
I
do some groundwork, and I think some of the things are getting far enough where you guys, there should be some involvement there, and it will be helpful, so. Moving forward, I'll keep that in mind. Any questions on any of that stuff? The town report is due soon. Any specific items anybody wants to see in that before I start preparing it?
I can't think of anything to maybe send out a draft.
I'll get it going in the next couple of weeks. I just didn't know off the top of your head if there was anything that happened in the last year that you wanted specifically mentioned, but I'll look back at the stuff and pick some of the big points and give a quick overview of what's been taking place. Water, we'll mention the betterments, reimbursement. So, other than that, the projects haven't happened yet. We can talk about the proposed.
Did anyone say when those checks are gonna begin to go out?
No, I have not asked.
They sent the form out,
Yes.
and it asked for the signature if you agreed with the amount, I believe. You had to sign the form off,
Mhm.
so. Okay. All right. Anything else? Nothing? Okay, next meeting is, January 29th, Monday,
Oh, yeah.
which is our workshop meeting,
Yes.
okay? And then the official meeting will be first week in February.
No, February 12th. That'll be the second Monday.
That'll be the second Monday, okay. That's
motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
You got a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.